No one could handle the Mafia boss's Tigger until a black pregnant waitress's daughter did the unthinkable. The diner went silent. Zara Ripley was 6 months pregnant, standing behind the counter of the Silver Spoon Diner, waiting for the man who murdered her mother to walk through the door. He had no idea she'd spent 2 years, 3 months, and 7 days planning this moment. No idea that 12,147 people were watching on a hidden livestream. No idea that the pregnant waitress serving coffee was the 4-year-old girl who'd hidden under this very counter 23 years ago, watching through a crack in the wood as he put 2 bullets in her mother's chest and laughed. His name was Thomas Rake. They called him Tigger, Vincent Calvetti's executioner, the man who made problems disappear. 43 confirmed kills, 0 arrests, 0 remorse. Until tonight. At exactly 10:00 p.m., headlights cut through the rain. A black sedan pulled up, and Tigger stepped out, brushing water from his jacket, walking into the diner with the confidence of a man who'd never had to look over his shoulder. Because everyone was too afraid to follow. Zara turned to face him. "You're closed," he asked, frowning at the sign. "Not for you," she said softly. He studied her face, her eyes, her cheekbones, the curve of her jaw. Something flickered in his expression. "Do I know you?" Zara smiled. Her mother's smile. The one she'd practiced 1,000 times in the mirror. "You knew my mother, Zara Ripley. You killed her. Right here, 23 years ago." The color drained from his face. "Sit down," Zara said, gesturing to booth number 7, the booth where her mother died. "We need to talk." What happened next changed everything. Hey, beautiful souls. Before we continue, I need to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And if you're not subscribed, hit that button now, because this story is about to take you on a ride you'll never forget. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But what they don't tell you is that some vengeance simmers for 23 years, marinating in grief, loss, and a hunger so deep it becomes the very marrow of your bones. This is a story about a woman who turned her womb into a weapon, her pregnancy into a shield, and her mother's memory into a loaded gun aimed straight at the heart of the man who laughed as her mother bled out on a diner floor. This is about the day Tigger, the Mafia's most feared executioner, learned that some debts can never be outrun, and some daughters never forget. Now let me tell you how we got here. The rain hammered against the window of the Silver Spoon Diner, like bullets against glass, and Zara Ripley stood behind the counter, one hand pressed against the swell of her belly, the other gripping a coffee pot so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. She was 6 months pregnant, exhausted, and staring at the door like she was waiting for death itself to walk through it. And, in a way, she was. The diner was nearly empty, just old man Kowalski nursing his 3rd cup of decaf in the corner booth, and a couple of truckers arguing about football near the jukebox. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made the red vinyl booths look like open wounds. Zara's reflection stared back at her from the chrome napkin dispenser. Dark circles under her brown eyes, hair pulled back into a bun that had come loose hours ago, her uniform stained with ketchup and the weight of a life she never asked for. But she wasn't thinking about the diner, or the truckers, or even the ache in her lower back that had been screaming at her since her shift started 8 hours ago. She was thinking about him. Tigger. The name alone made her stomach twist, and it wasn't morning sickness this time. It was rage. Pure, undiluted, ice-cold rage that had been building since she was 4 years old and watched her mother's blood pool on this very floor, spreading across the black and white checkered tiles like spilled wine at a wedding nobody wanted to attend. Tigger wasn't his real name, of course. Nobody in the Calvetti crime family used their real names, but everyone knew who he was. Vincent Calvetti's right hand, his executioner, his cleaner. The man who made problems disappear. The man who smiled when he pulled the trigger. The man who had walked into this diner 23 years ago, put 2 bullets in Zara Ripley's chest while she begged for her life and the life of her unborn child, and then ordered a slice of apple pie before he left. Zara had been hiding under the counter that night, her small hands clamped over her mouth, her mother's screams echoing in her skull like a song she'd never be able to unhear. She'd watched through the crack between the counter and the wall as Tigger, tall, broad-shouldered, with slicked back hair and a smile that looked like it had been carved with a knife, stood over her mother's body and laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a shocked laugh, a satisfied laugh, like he'd just finished a job well done. The police had come, asked their questions, taken their notes, and done absolutely nothing. Because that's what happened when Vincent Calvetti owned half the city and fear owned the other half. Witnesses suddenly couldn't remember faces. Security footage mysteriously disappeared. And a 4-year-old girl's testimony? Well, that was just trauma talking. Zara had been shuffled into the foster system, bounced between 6 different homes, and spent her entire childhood knowing one terrible truth. Justice wasn't real. Not for people like her. Not for people like her mother. So she'd stopped waiting for it. And she'd started planning. The door chimed, and Zara's heart slammed against her ribcage. A man walked in, shaking rain from his leather jacket. Tall, mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, a scar running down his left cheek like a zipper that hadn't quite closed. Not him. She exhaled slowly, forcing her hand to steady as she poured coffee for the truckers. But her mind was racing, running through the plan she'd spent 2 years constructing, brick by careful brick. It had started with research, hundreds of hours in library archives, on dark web forums, in conversations with people who owed the Calvetti family nothing but hatred. She'd learned everything about Tigger, his routines, his vices, his weaknesses. She'd learned that he came to this diner every Thursday night at 10 p.m., like clockwork, because he liked their meatloaf, and because nostalgia was a drug even killers couldn't resist. She'd learned that he had a daughter, grown now, living in Seattle, who hadn't spoken to him in 15 years. She'd learned that he had a fear of exposure, of his name and face being plastered across the internet, where Vincent Calvetti's enemies could find him, where his daughter could see what kind of monster her father really was. And she'd learned that he had a conscience, small, shriveled, barely alive, but it was there, buried under decades of violence and self-justification. But there. Zara had spent the last 6 months setting the stage, getting hired at the diner, making sure the manager put her on Thursday night shifts, letting Tigger see her, week after week, her belly growing larger, her face a ghost of the woman he'd murdered. He hadn't recognized her yet, but he would. Tonight. At 9:47 p.m., the diner was empty except for Zara and Jerry, the night cook, who was in the back, smoking and scrolling through his phone. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the street outside glistened like oil under the streetlights. Zara checked her phone. 3 messages in the group chat she'd created with people who had their own scores to settle with the Calvetti family. Isabella. Equipment is ready. Cameras in position. Devon. Livestream link active. 10K people waiting. Maya. Police scanner quiet. You've got a window. Zara's thumb hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed. He's coming. She slipped the phone into her apron pocket and walked to the door, flipping the sign from open to closed. Then she locked it. Jerry poked his head out from the kitchen. We closing early. Private party, Zara said, her voice steady. You can head out. Jerry shrugged, grabbed his coat, and left through the back door without a second glance. He was used to not asking questions. It was safer that way. Zara was alone now. She walked behind the counter, opened the drawer beneath the register, and pulled out a small black device no bigger than a USB drive. She plugged it into the diner's ancient sound system, and a soft hum filled the air, a frequency just low enough to be uncomfortable, just high enough to put people on edge. Psychological warfare, Isabella had called it. Make him feel like the walls are closing in before he even knows he's trapped. Zara returned to the counter and waited, her hand resting on her belly. The baby kicked, hard, like it could sense her heartbeat racing. It's okay, she whispered. We're okay. We're going to be okay. And then, at exactly 10 p.m., headlights cut through the darkness outside. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. The driver's side door opened, and Tigger stepped out into the rain. He looked older than she remembered from the photographs. His hair was thinner, his face more lined, his shoulders slightly hunched. But the walk was the same, confident, unhurried, like a man who'd never had to look over his shoulder because everyone else was too afraid to follow. He pushed open the door, unlocked just as she'd left it, and stepped inside, brushing rain from his jacket. You're closed? He asked, frowning at the sign. Zara turned to face him, and for the first time in 23 years, she let him see her. Really see her. Not for you, she said softly. Tigger's eyes narrowed. He studied her face, his gaze moving from her eyes to her cheekbones to the curve of her jaw. Something flickered in his expression. Recognition, maybe. Or just confusion. Do I know you? He asked. Zara smiled, and it was her mother's smile, the one she'd practiced in the mirror 1,000 times. You knew my mother, she said. Zara Ripley. You killed her. Right here, 23 years ago. The color drained from Tigger's face, and Zara's smile widened. Sit down, she said, gesturing to the booth where her mother had died. We need to talk. Does this hook you? Let me know in the comments what you think is about to happen. And if you're loving this story so far, hit that subscribe button because part 2 is going to take this to a whole new level. Trust me, you don't want to miss what Zara does next. Tigger didn't sit. He stood there, frozen, his hand still on the door handle, like he was calculating whether he could make it back outside before whatever trap was waiting for him snapped shut. His eyes, pale blue, the kind that looked almost colorless in the harsh diner lighting, darted around the empty space, searching for threats, for backup, for anything that made sense. But all he saw was a pregnant woman with her mother's face staring at him like she'd been waiting her entire life for this moment. Because she had. I said sit, Zara repeated, her voice calm, almost gentle. The kind of gentle that came right before a storm. Listen, sweetheart, Tigger started, his voice smooth, practiced, the voice of a man who'd talked his way out of tight spots before. I think you've got me confused with someone. Booth number 7, Zara interrupted, pointing to the red vinyl seat by the window. That's where she was sitting when you walked in. She was wearing a yellow dress, sunflower yellow, because it was summer, and she loved bright colors. She was 4 months pregnant with my baby brother. She'd just gotten off a double shift, and her feet were swollen, so she'd taken her shoes off under the table. Zara took a step forward, and Tigger took a step back. You ordered coffee. Black. 2 sugars. She brought it to you with a smile, because that's who she was. She smiled at everyone, even men who looked at her like she was disposable. You asked her name. She told you, Amara, and you said, that's pretty, shame. Tigger's jaw tightened. His hand moved toward his jacket. Instinct, muscle memory. But Zara held up her phone, screen facing him. On it, a live stream counter. 12,047 viewers. Go ahead, Zara said softly. Reach for whatever you've got in that jacket. But know that 12,000 people are watching right now. And if anything happens to me, if I stop broadcasting for even 30 seconds, every major news outlet in the city gets a file with your real name, your address, photos of every job you've done for Vincent Calvetti, and a detailed confession from 3 witnesses who are ready to testify the moment you're exposed. The hand retreated. Tigger's face was pale now, a thin sheen of sweat forming on his upper lip despite the cool air. So here's what's going to happen, Zara continued, her voice still that eerie calm. You're going to sit in that booth. You're going to listen to what I have to say. And then you're going to make a choice, the first real choice you've probably made in decades. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then slowly Tigger walked to booth number 7 and slid into the seat. Zara exhaled, and the baby kicked again, harder this time. Good timing, little one, she thought. Mama's got this. She walked behind the counter, poured 2 cups of coffee, black, 2 sugars for him, decaf with cream for herself, and brought them to the table. She set his cup down in front of him, then slid into the opposite seat, her pregnant belly pressing against the edge of the table. They sat in silence for a moment, the hum of the frequency device the only sound besides the rain starting to pick up again outside. Tigger stared at his coffee like it might be poisoned. It's just coffee, Zara said. I'm not trying to kill you. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. He looked up at her, something like surprise flickering across his face. You're not exactly in a position to... I'm in every position, Zara cut him off. You're the one trapped in a diner with a dead woman's daughter, while thousands of people watch and wait to see what happens next. So let's not pretend you have any power here. Tigger picked up the coffee cup with a hand that wasn't quite steady and took a sip. His eyes never left hers. You look like her, he said quietly. Same eyes, same fire. Don't, Zara said, her voice sharp now. Don't you dare talk about her like you knew her. You didn't know her, you just killed her. It was business, Tigger said. And the words came out automatic, rehearsed, like he'd told himself that lie so many times he almost believed it. She was in the wrong place, at the wrong time. Calvetti wanted to send a message to... My mother wasn't a message. Zara's voice cracked, and for the first time, emotion broke through her careful control. She was a person. She had dreams. She wanted to open her own restaurant someday. She sang in the church choir every Sunday. She made the best peach cobbler in 3 counties. And she tucked me into bed every night and told me I could be anything I wanted to be. Zara's hands were shaking now, and she pressed them flat against the table to steady them. And you took her away from me because some old man in a suit wanted to prove a point to someone who probably doesn't even remember why they were feuding in the first place. Tigger looked down at his coffee, his jaw working like he was chewing on words he couldn't quite swallow. I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, he finally said. "Oh, I know," Zara replied, pulling a tablet from her bag beneath the table. She turned it on and slid it across to him. "I know everything." The screen showed a document, a meticulously organized file with dates, locations, names, and photographs. Dozens of them. People Tigger had handled over the years. Some were criminals themselves, rivals in the drug trade, or witnesses who'd gotten too brave. But others were just people. Wrong place, wrong time. Like Amara. There was Marcus Chen, a grocery store owner who'd refused to pay protection money, dead at 42, leaving behind a wife and 3 kids. There was Elena Rodriguez, a journalist who'd been investigating Calvetti's laundering operations, found in the river, ruled a suicide. There was Thomas Brennan, a defense attorney who'd gotten too close to turning one of Calvetti's men. Car accident, brake failure, and on and on and on. 23 years of blood. Tigger's face went from pale to grey as he scrolled through the file, his fingers moving slower and slower until they stopped altogether. "How did you—" he started, but the words died in his throat. "How did I get all this?" Zara finished for him. "I spent 2 years of my life tracking you. I found people you'd wronged, people who'd lost someone to you, people who were too afraid to speak up, but desperate enough to talk to someone who wasn't afraid. I found your victims' families. I found witnesses who never testified because they knew the system was rigged. I found receipts. Tigger, bank transfers, burner phone records, security footage that mysteriously disappeared from police evidence rooms, but not from private servers." She leaned forward, her eyes locked on his. "I built a case that could bury you, Calvetti, and half the NYPD who've been looking the other way for decades. And right now, that case is sitting in a secure cloud server with a dead man's switch. If I don't check in every 12 hours, it gets released. All of it. To the FBI, the press, social media, everywhere." Tigger set the tablet down carefully, like it might explode. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Money? I can get you money. Calvetti has— I don't want money. Protection. A new identity? I can make you disappear. Set you up somewhere safe. I don't want to disappear." Tigger's hands clenched into fists on the table. "Then what the hell do you want?" Zara reached across the table and placed her hand over his, not gently, not comforting, but firm, grounding, forcing him to feel the weight of what she was about to say. "I want you to confess," she said. "On camera. To everything. Every life you've taken, every family you've destroyed, every order you followed, because it was easier than having a conscience. I want you to say my mother's name. I want you to admit what you did to her, to my brother, who never got to be born, to me." Tigger jerked his hand away like she'd burned him. "Are you insane? If I do that, Calvetti will—" "Kill you," Zara finished, her smile cold. "Yes, probably. Or the families of your victims will get to you first, or the feds will lock you up for the rest of your life. All real possibilities." She leaned back, her hand moving to her belly protectively. "But here's the thing, Tigger. You're going to die anyway. We all are. The only question is whether you die as the monster everyone knows you are, or whether you die having told the truth for once in your miserable life." Tigger stared at her, his mind clearly racing, weighing options, calculating odds. "You can't possibly think I don't think anything," Zara interrupted. "I'm offering you a choice. The first real choice you've made since you decided my mother's life was worth less than Vincent Calvetti's approval." She stood up, her movements slow, deliberate, and walked back behind the counter. From beneath the register, she pulled out a small video camera on a tripod and set it up, the red recording light blinking steadily. "You have until midnight," she said, checking her watch. "That gives you 2 hours to decide. You can confess, and I'll make sure that footage gets to people who can actually do something with it. Prosecutors who aren't on Calvetti's payroll. Journalists who've been waiting years for something solid on you. Your daughter in Seattle will finally know the truth about what her father really is, but at least she'll know you tried to make it right at the end." Zara's voice softened, just slightly. "Or you can walk out that door, and by morning, everything I have on you goes public anyway. Except then, you won't have any control over the narrative. You'll just be the coward who ran." Tigger's breathing was shallow now, his eyes darting between Zara, the camera, and the door. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, and for the first time he sounded genuinely confused. "Even if I confess, it won't bring her back. It won't undo what happened." Zara's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. "No," she agreed. "It won't. But it'll mean she mattered. It'll mean her death wasn't just erased, swept under the rug, forgotten. It'll mean the world has to acknowledge that Amara Ripley existed, that she was loved, and that what happened to her was wrong. She placed both hands on her belly, feeling her baby move beneath her palms. And it'll mean my child grows up in a world where monsters can be held accountable, even if it takes 23 years. The rain was coming down harder now, drumming against the roof like 1,000 angry fists. The diner felt smaller somehow, the walls closing in, the air thick with tension and unspoken history. Tigger sat in booth number 7, staring at the table where Zara Ripley had bled out, and for the first time in decades, he looked like what he really was, a tired, broken man who'd spent his whole life running from the weight of his own choices. 2 hours, Zara repeated, walking toward the back door. I'll be in the kitchen. You think about what kind of man you want to die as. She paused at the doorway, one hand on the frame, and looked back at him. And Tigger? My mother's last words were, please. She begged you for her life, for my brother's life, for mine, and you laughed. Zara's voice dropped to barely a whisper, but it cut through the rain and the hum of the frequency device like a blade. I'm not begging you for anything. I'm giving you a chance she never got. Don't waste it. What do you think Tigger's going to do? Will he confess, or will he try to run? Drop your predictions in the comments. I want to hear your theories. And if you're hooked on this story, make sure you're subscribed because what happened next will shock you. Zara didn't actually go to the kitchen. She stood just beyond the doorway, hidden in the shadows where Tigger couldn't see her, watching him through the narrow gap between the door and its frame. Her phone was in her hand, the live stream still broadcasting, the viewer count climbing steadily. 24 viewers. People were commenting in real time, their messages scrolling past faster than she could read them. Is this real? Someone call the police. This is the most insane thing I've ever seen. Get him, girl. My uncle was killed by the Calvetti family. Make him pay. Zara's thumb hovered over the screen, but she didn't respond. She couldn't afford to be distracted. Not now, not when everything she'd worked for was balanced on the edge of a knife. In the booth, Tigger hadn't moved. He sat with his hands wrapped around the coffee cup, staring at nothing, his face a mask of something Zara couldn't quite read. Regret, fear, calculation, maybe all three. The frequency device hummed its uncomfortable note, and Zara watched as Tigger shifted in his seat, his shoulders tensing like he could feel something wrong but couldn't identify what. Good. Isabella had promised it would work, a sonic frequency that triggered anxiety responses in the brain, making rational thought harder, emotional responses stronger. Make him feel, not think, Isabella had said. Men like him have spent decades building walls around their emotions. We need to crack those walls. Zara checked her watch. 10:17 p.m., 1 hour and 43 minutes until midnight. And then Tigger did something she didn't expect. He laughed. Not the cruel, satisfied laugh from 23 years ago. This was different, bitter, hollow. The laugh of a man who'd just realized he was standing at the edge of a cliff with nowhere left to run. Smart girl, he said to the empty diner, his voice carrying across the space. You're your mother's daughter. All right. She was smart too. Smarter than she had any right to be. Zara's jaw clenched, but she stayed silent, hidden, watching. Tigger pulled out his phone, a burner probably, the kind he switched out every few weeks, and stared at the blank screen like he was trying to decide whether to make a call. His thumb moved toward the power button, then stopped. He knew. If he called Calvetti, if he called for backup, if he made any move that looked like he was trying to escape or retaliate, Zara's dead man switch would trigger. Everything would go public. And Vincent Calvetti didn't tolerate liabilities, especially ones that could bring federal attention to his entire operation. Tigger would be dead by dawn, either way. The only question was whether he'd die with his secrets or without them. He set the phone on the table, face down, like he was surrendering it. And then he did something else Zara didn't expect. He started to cry. Not sobbing, not dramatic, just silent tears sliding down his weathered face, catching in the lines around his eyes, dripping onto the formica table. His shoulders shook once, twice, and then he pressed his palms against his eyes like he was trying to physically push the emotion back inside. Jesus Christ, he whispered. Jesus Christ, what have I done? Zara's breath caught in her throat. She'd prepared for anger. She'd prepared for denial, for threats, for him to try to manipulate her or bargain his way out. She'd even prepared for violence, though the live stream and her contingency plans made that option nearly suicidal for him. But this This raw, broken moment of something that looked almost like remorse. She hadn't prepared for that. Her hand moved instinctively to her belly, and the baby kicked. Hard, like it was reminding her why she was here, what this was all for. She couldn't afford to feel sympathy. Not for him, not after everything, but something in her chest tightened anyway. "Don't you dare feel sorry for him," she told herself. "He doesn't get your pity. He doesn't get your mercy. He gets justice, and that's all." Tigger wiped his face with the back of his hand and looked up at the camera, the red light still blinking steadily. "You want a confession?" he said, his voice cracking. "Fine, I'll give you a confession. But not because I'm afraid of you, little girl. And not because of your dead man's switch, or your cameras, or your army of internet vigilantes." He leaned forward, his pale blue eyes finding the lens. "I'll do it because I'm tired. I'm so goddamn tired of carrying this weight. And maybe it's time somebody finally knew the truth." Zara stepped out of the shadows. Tigger's head snapped toward her, his eyes widening slightly, like he'd forgotten she was there, or maybe like he'd hoped she'd left him alone with his breakdown. "Then start talking," Zara said, walking slowly back to the booth. She slid into the seat across from him, her movements careful, controlled. "You've got an audience. Tell them who you are." Tigger's jaw worked, and for a moment she thought he might back out, might retreat into the shell of the killer he'd been for so long. But then he spoke. "My name is Thomas Rake," he said, and the name hung in the air like a confession, all on its own. "People call me Tigger because of what I do. What I've done. For 27 years I've been Vincent Calvetti's executioner, his cleaner, the man who makes problems disappear." His voice was steady now, gaining strength from the admission, like a dam that had finally cracked and was letting the flood through. "I've killed 43 people," he continued. "Maybe more. Some of them were criminals, rival dealers, informants, people who crossed Calvetti in ways that couldn't be forgiven. But some of them..." He looked at Zara, and the pain in his eyes was so real she almost looked away. "Some of them were just people. Innocent people, who were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or who knew too much, or who refused to play along with the system. Like my mother," Zara said quietly. Tigger nodded, his throat working like he was trying to swallow something sharp. "Like your mother." The rain was relentless now, pounding against the windows so hard it sounded like the building might collapse. The lights flickered once, twice, but held steady. On Zara's phone, the viewer count had climbed to 29,5583. The comments were flying by too fast to read, but she caught glimpses. "Holy shit, he's actually confessing. Record this. Save it. Don't let them scrub it. Where are the police? This is either the bravest thing I've ever seen, or the craziest." Zara's heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat, but she kept her face neutral, her voice calm. "Tell me about the night you killed her," she said. "Tell me everything you remember." Tigger's hands were shaking now, and he clasped them together on the table to still them. "It was July," he began. "Hot as hell, the kind of heat that makes people crazy, makes them do stupid things. Calvetti had a beef with a guy named Raymond Cross, a small-time dealer who'd been trying to expand into Calvetti's territory. Cross used to come to this diner late at night. Thought it was neutral ground. Safe." Zara's breath hitched. She'd never known why her mother had died, just that she had. The police reports had been vague, the investigation closed within weeks. "Wrong place, wrong time," was all anyone would say. But now she was getting answers. "Calvetti wanted to send a message," Tigger continued, "not just to Cross, but to anyone who thought they could challenge him. So he told me to handle it. Make it public. Make it brutal. Make sure everyone knew what happened when you stepped out of line." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "I walked in around 10:30 p.m. Your mother was the only waitress on duty. She smiled at me, brought me coffee, asked if I wanted anything to eat, and I sat there, waiting for Cross to show up, knowing what I was about to do, and she had no idea she was serving coffee to her own execution." Zara's fingernails dug into her palms so hard she felt skin break. "Cross never showed," Tigger said. "Turns out he'd heard something was off, decided to skip his usual routine, so I was sitting there with my orders and no target. And Calvetti called me, told me the message still needed to be sent, told me to improvise." "So you chose her," Zara said, her voice like ice. I chose her, Tigger confirmed, and his face crumpled again. I told myself it was just business, that she was just a random casualty, that she wouldn't suffer, that it would be quick. But when I stood up and pulled my gun, she knew. God, she knew. And she didn't run. She just put her hand on her stomach and begged me not to hurt her baby. A tear slid down Zara's cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. She said, "Please, I have a daughter. She's only 4. Please don't do this. Please." And Tigger's voice broke completely. I shot her anyway, twice, sent a mass, and she fell, and there was so much blood, and I walked out, got in my car, went home, took a shower, went to bed, like it was nothing, like she was nothing. The diner was silent except for the rain and the hum of the frequency device. Zara's entire body was trembling now, years of grief and rage and pain finally having a voice, a target, a reason. "And then you came back," she said. "A week later, you came back to this diner and ordered apple pie, like you were celebrating." Tigger looked up at her, surprise flickering across his face. "You remember that?" "I remember everything," Zara said. "I was hiding under the counter. I watched you kill her. I watched you laugh. And then a week later, I was in foster care, and I saw you through the window. You were sitting in that same booth, eating pie, and you looked happy." "I wasn't happy," Tigger said quickly. I was trying to prove to myself it didn't matter, that I could come back here and it would be just another place, just another job. But it wasn't. It isn't. I've thought about your mother every day for 23 years, every single day." "Good," Zara said coldly. "You should." "I know," Tigger said. "I know I should. And I know saying I'm sorry doesn't mean anything. I know it doesn't bring her back or fix what I took from you. But I am sorry, Zara. I'm so sorry." And for the first time since this all started, Zara felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness. Never forgiveness. But something like closure. Like the wound that had been festering for 23 years was finally being opened, drained, cleaned. It still hurt like hell. But maybe, it could finally start to heal. And then the door burst open. A man stepped inside, water streaming off his expensive suit, his salt and pepper hair plastered to his head. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes like chips of flint and a smile that didn't reach anywhere near his eyes. Zara's blood turned to ice. Vincent Calvetti. Well, Calvetti said, his voice smooth as silk and twice as dangerous. "Isn't this cozy? Tommy, you want to explain to me why you're sitting in a diner confessing to crimes on a live stream with 28,000 witnesses?" Tigger's face went white, and Zara realized her carefully constructed plan had just run into its first real obstacle. Oh, my God. Vincent Calvetti just walked in. What do you think happens next? Can Zara protect herself? Will Tigger turn on her to save himself? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button because part 4 is about to get wild. Vincent Calvetti didn't look angry. That was the terrifying part. Angry men made mistakes. Angry men got sloppy, emotional, and irrational. But Calvetti stood in the doorway of the Silver Spoon Diner, with the calm of a man who'd walked into 1,000 bad situations and walked out of every single one of them with blood on his hands and a smile on his face. He closed the door behind him with a soft click, locked it, and pocketed the key. "Zara Ripley," he said, like he was tasting her name. "Amara's little girl, all grown up. And pregnant, I see. Congratulations. When are you due?" Zara's hand moved instinctively to her belly, protective, defiant. She didn't answer. Calvetti's smile widened. "Not much of a talker, huh? That's all right. I can respect that. Your mother wasn't much of a talker either. Not until the end, anyway." He tilted his head, studying her like she was an interesting piece of art. "You've got her eyes. Same fire. Tommy, you notice that?" Tigger, Thomas Rake, sat frozen in the booth, his face a mask of pure terror. His eyes darted between Calvetti and Zara could practically see the calculations running through his head. Run, fight, plead, die. "Mr. Calvetti," Tigger started, his voice hoarse. "I didn't. Shut up, Tommy," Calvetti said pleasantly, and Tigger's mouth snapped closed like a puppet whose strings had been cut. "The grown-ups are talking." Calvetti walked further into the diner, his expensive Italian shoes, squeaking slightly on the wet floor. He moved with the easy confidence of a predator who knew he was at the top of the food chain, that nothing in this room could touch him. But Zara noticed something else too. He kept his distance from the camera. He positioned himself just outside the frame where the live stream couldn't catch his face clearly, where he could deny he was ever here if things went sideways. He's afraid of exposure too, Zara realized. He's just better at hiding it. So here's what I'm trying to understand, Calvetti continued, leaning against the counter with the casual air of someone ordering coffee, not interrupting a confession that could bring down his entire empire. You spend 2 years putting together this elaborate revenge plot. You get Tommy here to sit down and spill his guts on camera. You've got what? He glanced at Zara's phone on the table. 31,000 people watching right now. Impressive, really. I'm almost proud. He pulled a piece of gum from his pocket, unwrapped it slowly, folded it into his mouth. But what you didn't account for, Calvetti said, chewing thoughtfully, is that I have people everywhere, including a very helpful young man named Devon who's been monitoring certain suspicious online activity. You remember Devon, don't you, Zara? He helped you set up your live stream? Zara's stomach dropped. No. Devon's been working for me for 6 months, Calvetti continued, and there was a hint of satisfaction in his voice now. The pleasure of watching someone realize their carefully laid plans were unraveling. Kid needed money for his sister's cancer treatments. I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. So when he helped you set up your little broadcast, he also made sure I knew exactly when and where this was happening. He pushed off the counter and took a step closer, still staying out of the camera's direct line of sight. Which means right now, as we speak, Devon is rerouting your live stream. All those people watching, they're not seeing what's happening in this diner anymore. They're seeing a loop. Same footage, over and over. You sitting, Tommy talking, nothing new. And if anyone tries to check the dead man's switch you're so proud of? Calvetti smiled, and it was the most terrifying smile Zara had ever seen. It's been deactivated. All your files, all your evidence, all your insurance policies, gone, wiped, like they never existed. The world tilted. Zara's hand shot to her phone, pulling up the stream interface, and her heart stopped. The viewer count was frozen at 31,847. The comments had stopped scrolling. The video feed showed her and Tigger sitting in the booth, but it was from 5 minutes ago. She could tell by the position of the coffee cups, by the way her hand had been resting on the table. It was a loop. Calvetti was telling the truth. Devon, she whispered, and the betrayal hit her like a physical blow. Devon, who'd lost his sister to leukemia 3 years ago, whose grief had bonded them, who'd promised to help her no matter what, because he understood what it meant to lose someone you loved. His sister's cancer treatments. But Devon's sister was already dead. Unless... His sister didn't have cancer, Zara said slowly, looking up at Calvetti. You made that up. You knew I'd been talking to people who'd lost family to your organization, and you planted Devon in those circles. You've been watching me this whole time. Calvetti's smile widened. Now you're catching on. Tommy, you see what I mean about the eyes? Sharp as hell. He clapped his hands together once, loud in the small space. So here's where we are. Your stream is dead, your insurance is gone, your backup plans are compromised. And right now, the only reason you're still breathing is because I'm curious about something. He finally stepped fully into view, and for the first time, Zara saw something other than calm confidence in his expression. There was respect there, maybe even admiration. You did something nobody's ever done before, Calvetti said. You made Tommy feel something. I've known this man for 30 years, and I've never seen him cry. Never seen him show an ounce of genuine remorse. But you, he gestured toward Tigger, who sat with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. You broke him in under 2 hours. That takes skill. That takes understanding. That takes the kind of psychological warfare I can appreciate. Calvetti pulled out the chair at the end of the booth and sat down, creating a triangle. Zara, Tigger, and the man who controlled them both. So I want to offer you something, Calvetti said. A job. Zara stared at him like he'd just suggested she sprout wings and fly. A job. You've got talent, Calvetti said with a shrug. Strategic thinking, patience, the ability to identify weakness and exploit it. Those are valuable skills in my line of work. And let's be honest, what else are you going to do? You're 6 months pregnant, working in a diner, living in a 1-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town. Your foster care records show you've got no family, no support system, no safety net. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. I can change that. I can give you security, money, protection for you and your baby. All you have to do is walk away from this vendetta and come work for me. Use that brilliant mind of yours for something productive, instead of throwing it away on revenge that won't bring your mother back anyway." Zara's laugh was sharp, bitter, disbelieving. "You want me to work for the man who ordered my mother's death? Are you insane?" "I'm practical," Calvetti corrected. "And I'm giving you a way out of a situation where your other options are significantly less appealing, because let's be clear about what happens if you say no." His voice dropped, losing all pretense of warmth. "You and Tommy both disappear tonight. Your bodies won't be found. Your apartment will be cleaned out. Your pregnancy will be a tragic footnote. And in a week, nobody will remember this ever happened. That baby you're carrying, gone before it ever takes its first breath. Is that really what you want?" Zara's vision tunneled. Her ears rang. The baby kicked, hard, like it could sense the danger, like it was fighting to exist against the threat that had just been laid bare. "You're threatening my child," Zara said, her voice deadly quiet. "I'm offering you a choice," Calvetti replied. "Save yourself and your baby, or die for a mother who's been dead for 23 years. Seems like an easy decision to me." Tigger's head snapped up. "No," he said, and his voice was stronger now, steadier. "No, you don't touch her. You don't touch the baby." Calvetti raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" "I'll take the fall," Tigger said, standing up from the booth on shaking legs. "I'll confess to everything, take full responsibility. Say I acted alone, that you had nothing to do with any of it. I'll turn myself into the feds, plead guilty, spend the rest of my life in prison. Just let her go." Zara stared at him, shocked. Calvetti stared at him too, but his expression was one of amused disbelief. "Tommy," he said slowly, "have you lost your goddamn mind? You think I'm going to let you confess to the feds? You think I'm going to let you drag my organization into federal court?" "It doesn't have to involve you," Tigger insisted. "I'll say I was a rogue operator, that I used your name without permission. That. Nobody's going to believe that." "Then kill me!" Tigger shouted, and the desperation in his voice was raw, real. "Put a bullet in my head right now. I don't care anymore. I'm tired of running, tired of lying, tired of being the monster everyone knows I am. But don't hurt her. Don't hurt that baby. They're innocent." Calvetti studied Tigger for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he laughed. "Well, I'll be damned," he said. Tommy Rake grew a conscience. 27 years too late, but better late than never, I suppose. He stood up, buttoning his suit jacket. "Unfortunately for you, Tommy, I don't have the luxury of sentimentality. You're a liability now. You've shown weakness, and weakness is contagious. If I let you live after this, every other person in my organization will start thinking they can develop morals and walk away. Can't have that." Calvetti pulled a gun from inside his jacket, sleek, black, suppressor already attached, and aimed it casually at Tigger's chest. "So here's what's going to happen. Tommy dies. Zara, you get one more chance to take my offer, and if you refuse..." The lights went out. Complete darkness. The frequency device cut off mid-hum, plunging the diner into sudden absolute silence, except for the rain hammering against the roof. Zara's hand moved on pure instinct, grabbing the edge of the table and rolling sideways out of the booth, just as a gunshot cracked through the darkness, suppressed, but still loud enough to make her ears ring. She hit the floor hard, her shoulder taking the impact, and she heard Calvetti curse, heard footsteps moving fast, heard Tigger shouting something she couldn't make out. Another gunshot, the sound of glass shattering, and then, impossibly, a voice Zara had never expected to hear. "NYPD, drop your weapon!" Emergency lights flooded the diner, harsh, white, blinding after the darkness, and suddenly there were police officers everywhere, streaming in through the front door, the back door, surrounding Calvetti with weapons drawn. Zara lay on the floor, her heart hammering, her hands instinctively covering her belly, and she looked up to see Isabella standing in the doorway, holding a police radio, her expression fierce and triumphant. "Did you really think I'd let Devon be our only tech guy?" Isabella called to Zara. "I've been running a parallel stream the whole time, one Calvetti couldn't touch, and I had a direct line to the FBI the second he walked through that door." Calvetti stood with his hands raised, gun on the floor, his face a mask of cold fury. "You have the right to remain silent," an officer said, moving forward with handcuffs. But Calvetti was staring at Zara, his eyes promising violence, promising retribution, promising that this wasn't over. "This isn't over," he said aloud, confirming her thoughts. "You have no idea what you've just done." "Yes, I do," Zara said, pulling herself to her feet with help from Isabella, who'd rushed to her side. "I just took down the man who's been terrorizing this city for 30 years. And I did it while pregnant and working a minimum wage job. So, yeah, I know exactly what I've done." She met Calvetti's eyes, unflinching. I won. The diner had transformed into a crime scene. Yellow tape stretched across the entrance. Forensic teams moved through the space with methodical precision, photographing bullet holes, collecting evidence, dusting for prints. Red and blue lights from the squad cars outside painted the rain-slicked street in alternating waves of color, and the crowd of onlookers behind the police barriers had grown to dozens. Phones out, recording everything, posting to social media in real time. Zara sat in the back of an ambulance, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders despite the summer heat, while a paramedic checked her blood pressure and listened to the baby's heartbeat with a handheld Doppler. "Strong and steady," the paramedic said with a reassuring smile. "Your baby is doing just fine. You, on the other hand, need rest. Your blood pressure's elevated, which is understandable given the circumstances, but stress isn't good for either of you." Zara nodded absently, her eyes fixed on the diner entrance, where officers were escorting Vincent Calvetti out in handcuffs. He moved with the same calm confidence he'd had inside, like this was a minor inconvenience rather than the end of his empire. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions. But Calvetti said nothing, his expression blank, his eyes scanning the crowd until they found Zara. He smiled. Not a warm smile, not a threatening smile, a knowing smile. Like he had a secret she didn't. A chill ran down Zara's spine despite the humid night air. "Ms. Ripley?" Zara turned to see a woman in her 40s approaching. Shoulder-length dark hair, sharp eyes, a FBI badge clipped to her belt. She had the look of someone who'd seen too much and slept too little. But her handshake was firm, her voice steady. "I'm Special Agent Sarah Connor," she said, and Zara almost laughed at the name. Of course, that was her name, like something out of a movie. "I've been leading the investigation into the Calvetti organization for 3 years. What you did tonight, I need you to understand how significant this is. We've been trying to get Calvetti on record, to get any of his people to turn, to find anything that would stick in court, and you handed us a full confession from his top enforcer, plus Calvetti himself making threats on a live stream that was being monitored by 40,000 people before we shut it down for evidence preservation." "Isabella's stream," Zara said. "She had a backup." "She had 3 backups," Agent Connor corrected with a hint of admiration. "Redundant servers, encrypted channels, automatic uploads to multiple law enforcement agencies. Your friend is either paranoid as hell or a genius, possibly both." "Definitely both," Zara murmured. Agent Connor pulled out a tablet and sat down on the ambulance bumper next to Zara. "I need to ask you some questions. Are you up for that? Or should we wait until—" "Ask," Zara interrupted. "I want to get this over with." For the next 20 minutes, Zara walked Agent Connor through everything. The 2 years of research, the network of victims' families she'd connected with, the plan to lure Tigger into a confession, the contingencies she'd built in case things went wrong. She explained Devon's supposed betrayal, though Isabella had already confirmed that Devon had actually been working with the FBI the whole time. His role was to feed Calvetti false information, to make him think he had control when he actually had none. "Devon's sister really does have cancer," Agent Connor said gently. "Stage 3 lymphoma. We've been paying for her treatments through a confidential informant fund. He wasn't lying to you about that, Zara. He was just working multiple angles to keep everyone safe." The relief that washed over Zara was almost painful. She'd liked Devon. Trusted him. The idea that he'd betrayed her for money had cut deeper than she'd wanted to admit. "And Tigger?" Zara asked. "Thomas Rake. What happens to him?" Agent Connor's expression became carefully neutral. "That's complicated." "Complicated how?" Agent Connor glanced at the paramedic, who took the hint and stepped away to give them privacy. Once she was out of earshot, the agent leaned in closer, her voice dropping. "Thomas Rake's confession is going to be the cornerstone of our case against Calvetti. But here's the problem. Rake is also guilty of at least 43 murders that we know of, probably more. His cooperation is valuable, but he's not walking away from this. He's going to prison for the rest of his life, possibly facing the death penalty, depending on which jurisdiction prosecutes which crimes." Zara's throat tightened. She'd known this, logically. She'd known that forcing Tigger to confess meant he'd face consequences, but hearing it laid out so bluntly made it real in a way it hadn't been before. "However," Agent Connor continued, "Rake is requesting something unusual. He wants to speak with you. Privately. Before he's transported to federal holding." Zara's head snapped up. "Why?" "He wouldn't say. Just that it was important. That you deserved to know something he didn't tell you earlier." Agent Connor studied Zara's face. "You don't have to talk to him. You don't owe him anything. But if you want to, if you think it might give you closure, I can arrange 5 minutes. Supervised, of course. He'll be in restraints. Officers present. You'll be completely safe. Zara's hand moved to her belly, feeling the baby shift beneath her palm. What could he possibly have to tell me that he didn't say already? But even as she thought it, she knew she had to find out. She'd come this far. She'd orchestrated this entire confrontation to get answers, to make Tigger face what he'd done. She couldn't walk away now without hearing whatever final truth he had to offer. 5 minutes, Zara said. I'll talk to him. They set up the meeting in the diner's back office, a cramped room with a desk, 2 chairs, and a filing cabinet that looked like it hadn't been opened since the 1990s. Tigger sat in one chair, his hands cuffed in front of him, an officer stationed by the door. Agent Connor stood just outside, visible through the small window, ready to intervene if needed. Zara sat across from him, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Tigger looked different now, smaller somehow, like the confession had physically diminished him. His eyes were red-rimmed, his face haggard, and when he finally met Zara's gaze, she saw something she hadn't seen before. Genuine shame. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't, Zara admitted. What do you want, Tigger? What could you possibly have to say that you didn't already confess on camera? Tigger took a shaky breath. Your mother didn't beg me not to kill her. Zara froze. What? Earlier I said she begged for her life. For her baby's life. That's what I've told myself for 23 years. That's the version I've lived with, because it was easier. It let me pretend she was weak, that she was just a victim who couldn't fight back. His voice cracked. But that's not what happened. Zara's heart was hammering now, her hands gripping the edges of her chair so hard her knuckles went white. What really happened? She whispered. Tigger's eyes filled with tears again. When I stood up and pulled my gun, your mother didn't beg. She looked at me. Really looked at me. And she said, you don't have to do this. You can walk away right now. You can choose to be better. He wiped at his eyes with his cuffed hands, the metal clinking softly. And I said, this is business. This is who I am. And you know what she said back? Zara couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only shake her head. She said, no, this is who you've chosen to be. But it's not too late to choose differently. It's never too late. Tigger's voice broke completely. And then I shot her, because she was right, and I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand the idea that I had a choice, that I could walk away, that I didn't have to be the monster everyone expected me to be. So I killed her to prove to myself that she was wrong, that I was just business, just a weapon, just a tool, with no conscience. He looked up at Zara, tears streaming down his face. But she wasn't wrong. I did have a choice. I've had a choice every single day for 23 years, and every single day I chose to keep being the monster because it was easier than facing what I'd done. Easier than admitting that I murdered a good woman who tried to save me from myself. Zara's own tears were falling now, hot and fast, and she couldn't stop them. Why are you telling me this? She asked, her voice barely audible. Because you deserve to know that your mother died trying to save someone who didn't deserve saving, Tigger said. Because you deserve to know that she was brave, not weak, that she saw humanity in a monster and tried to reach it. And because... He paused, struggling with the words. Because I need you to know that what you did tonight, forcing me to face my choices, to confess, to finally tell the truth, that's exactly what your mother tried to do 23 years ago. You finished what she started, and I think maybe she'd be proud of you for that. The 5 minutes were up. The officer stepped forward to escort Tigger out, but Zara held up a hand. Wait, she said. She stood up, walked around the desk, and stood directly in front of Tigger. He looked up at her, confusion and fear warring in his expression, like he thought she might spit on him, hit him, curse him for everything he'd taken from her. Instead, Zara did something she never imagined she would do. She placed her hand on his shoulder. My mother was right, Zara said quietly. It's never too late to choose differently. You made the wrong choice 23 years ago. You made wrong choices every day since then. But tonight, you made a different choice. You told the truth. You protected me and my baby when you could have saved yourself. That doesn't erase what you've done. It doesn't bring my mother back. But it means something. She leaned down slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper only he could hear. I will never forgive you for killing her. Never. But I hope that wherever you spend the rest of your life, you use it to become the person she saw in you. The person she died believing you could be. Tigger's face crumpled, and he nodded, unable to speak. Zara stepped back, and the officer led him out of the room. She stood there for a long moment, one hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick beneath her palm, feeling the weight of 23 years finally begin to lift from her shoulders. Her mother had tried to save a monster. Zara had made that monster face himself. And somehow, impossibly, both of those things felt like victory. Agent Connor appeared in the doorway. "Are you okay?" "No," Zara said honestly. "But I will be." "There's someone else here to see you," Agent Connor said. "She's been waiting outside for the past hour. Says her name is Maya Brennan. That you'd know who she was." Zara's breath caught. Maya Brennan. Thomas Brennan's daughter. The defense attorney Tigger had killed in a staged car accident. Maya had been one of the first people Zara had reached out to when she started building her case. A woman who'd spent 5 years trying to prove her father's death wasn't an accident, who'd lost her career and nearly her sanity pursuing justice that never came. "Send her in," Zara said. A moment later, a woman in her early 30s entered. Petite, with auburn hair pulled back in a ponytail, green eyes that held the same haunted look Zara saw in her own mirror. But those eyes were bright now, shining with something that looked like hope. "Is it true?" Maya asked without preamble. "Did you really get him? Did you get Tigger to confess?" "It's true," Zara confirmed. Maya's hand flew to her mouth, and she made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "Oh my God! Oh my God! I've been waiting 5 years to hear those words." She crossed the room and pulled Zara into a fierce hug, and Zara hugged her back, two women bound by loss and the impossible, improbable victory they'd just achieved. "There are others," Maya said, pulling back, wiping her eyes. "Families who've been waiting for this. Elena Rodriguez's sister, Maria Chen's widow, so many others. They're all outside. Can we see you? Can we thank you?" Zara's throat tightened. "You don't need to thank me. I did this for my mother. You did this for all of us," Maya corrected gently. "You gave us something we thought we'd never have. Proof, justice, closure. Please, just for a few minutes." Zara looked down at her belly, felt the baby kick again. Stronger now, insistent. And she thought about all the children who'd grown up without parents because of Vincent Calvetti's empire, because of men like Tigger who'd followed orders without question. "Okay," she said, "but just for a few minutes. Then I really need to go home and rest." Maya smiled through her tears. A few minutes is all we need. They stepped outside into the rain-washed night, and Zara found herself surrounded by a small crowd of people, 15, maybe 20, all holding photographs, pictures of the people they'd lost, the people Tigger had killed. A woman with kind eyes and grey hair held up a photo of a young man in a police uniform. "My son, Officer David Park. He was investigating Calvetti's operation. Tigger ran him off the road and staged it as a drunk driving accident." A man in his 60s clutched a picture of a smiling woman in a business suit. "My wife, Jennifer. She was a city councilwoman who wouldn't take bribes. She was poisoned at a campaign fundraiser." On and on it went, each person sharing a name, a face, a story. And Zara listened to every single one, bearing witness to the magnitude of what Tigger, and by extension Calvetti, had destroyed. When the last person had spoken, Zara looked at the crowd, at all these people who'd been carrying grief and rage and helplessness for years, and she felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just about her mother anymore. It never had been. "My mother's name was Zara Ripley," Zara said, her voice carrying across the crowd. "She was a waitress, a single mother, and a woman who believed people could change if you just gave them a chance to choose differently. She died trying to save the man who killed her. And tonight, I finished what she started. Not with violence, but with truth." She placed both hands on her belly. "This baby inside me will grow up in a world where Vincent Calvetti is behind bars, where Thomas Rake has to face what he's done, where justice is possible even when it seems impossible. And I hope, I really hope, that's the beginning of something better, for all of us." The crowd erupted in applause, and several people were openly crying. But Zara's attention was caught by something else. A black SUV parked across the street, engine running, windows tinted so dark she couldn't see inside. And standing next to it, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read, was a man she'd never seen before. Tall, early 40s, expensive suit that screamed money and power. And when their eyes met, he smiled. Not threatening, not warm, just interested. He raised his hand in a small wave. Then he got into the SUV and drove away. Agent Connor appeared at Zara's side, following her gaze. "What is it? What did you see?" "I don't know," Zara said slowly, "but I think we just got someone's attention." "Calvetti's?" No, Zara said, watching the taillights disappear around the corner. Someone else's. And deep in her gut, beneath the exhaustion and the relief and the triumph, a new thread of unease began to wind itself tight. This isn't over, she thought, echoing Calvetti's words. Something else is coming. 3 weeks later, Zara woke up to silence. Not the comfortable silence of a quiet morning, but the heavy, oppressive silence that meant something was wrong. She lay in her small apartment bed, one hand automatically moving to her belly. 7 months now, the baby growing stronger every day, and listened. No traffic noise from the street below. No neighbors arguing through the thin walls. No hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Nothing. The power was out. Zara sat up slowly, her back aching from the weight she was carrying, and reached for her phone on the nightstand. Dead. Which was impossible because she'd plugged it in before bed, and the battery had been at 90%. A cold finger of dread traced down her spine. She stood, moving carefully in the darkness. The blackout curtains she'd installed for safety after the Calvetti arrest blocked out even the streetlights, and made her way to the window. She pulled the curtain back an inch and looked out. The entire block was dark. No lights in any windows, no cars moving. Even the 24-hour bodega on the corner that never closed was pitch black. But there, parked directly across the street, was a black SUV with its engine running. The same SUV from 3 weeks ago. Zara's breath caught in her throat. She dropped the curtain and backed away from the window, her mind racing. Her backup phone, a burner Isabella had insisted she keep, was in the kitchen drawer. She moved toward it, bare feet silent on the worn carpet, when she heard it. A soft click. The sound of her apartment door's lock, disengaging. Someone was inside. Zara's training kicked in. The self-defense classes she'd taken after deciding to pursue Tigger, the emergency protocols Isabella had drilled into her, the panic room she'd created in her bedroom closet with a reinforced door and a separate phone line. She moved fast despite the pregnancy, sliding into the closet and pulling the reinforced door shut behind her. She engaged the lock, 3 deadbolts that could only be opened from the inside, and grabbed the emergency phone from its charging dock. No dial tone. The line was dead. No, no, no. Outside the closet, she heard footsteps. Slow, measured, confident, not bothering to hide. Whoever it was knew she was here, knew she was trapped, and wasn't worried about it. Ms. Ripley, a voice called out. Male, cultured, with just a hint of an accent she couldn't quite place. There's no need to hide. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to talk. Zara pressed herself against the back wall of the closet, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. The baby kicked, hard, like it could sense her fear. My name is Dmitry Koloff, the voice continued, and Zara heard him moving through her apartment, opening cabinets, checking rooms, getting closer to the bedroom. You may not know that name, but I assure you it's important. I'm the one who's been keeping you alive for the past 3 weeks. The footsteps stopped just outside the closet door. You see, when you took down Vincent Calvetti, you created a power vacuum. Very messy, very dangerous. There are at least 5 different factions fighting for control of his territory right now, and most of them are not happy about the woman who started this war. You should have been dead a dozen times over by now. A pause. But you're not. Because I made it very clear that anyone who touched you would answer to me personally. And trust me, Ms. Ripley, that's not a conversation anyone wants to have. Despite her terror, despite the situation, Zara found her voice. What do you want? She heard what might have been a smile in Dimitri's voice. There she is, the woman who brought down an empire with nothing but intelligence and nerve. Good. I was hoping you wouldn't disappoint me. Answer the question, Zara said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. What do you want? The same thing you wanted, Dimitri replied. Justice. Or perhaps more accurately, the dismantling of a corrupt system that's been poisoning this city for decades. You started that process when you exposed Calvetti. But starting something and finishing it are very different things. I don't understand. Vincent Calvetti is in federal custody, Dimitri said. Thomas Rake has turned state's witness and is cooperating with prosecutors. Trials are being scheduled. This is all wonderful news, yes? Justice is being served. Another pause. This one heavier. Except it's not. Because Calvetti's lawyers, the very best money can buy, have already found 14 procedural errors in the arrest. The live stream footage has been challenged on grounds of entrapment. Witnesses are suddenly recanting statements or disappearing altogether. And there's a very real possibility that Vincent Calvetti will walk free on a technicality within the next 60 days. Zara's stomach dropped. That's not possible. We had everything. The confession, the threats, the evidence. You had everything, Dimitri corrected. But the system you're trusting to deliver justice That system is broken. It's been broken for a long time. Calvetti's people have been working overtime to break it further, and they're very good at what they do. The closet door handle rattled. Not violently, just a test. This door is impressive, Dimitri said approvingly. Reinforced steel, triple deadbolt system, designed to withstand forced entry for at least 20 minutes. Isabella Chen's work, I assume. She's very talented. Zara's blood ran cold. How do you know Isabella's name? I know everything about you, Zara. I know about your childhood in foster care, your mother's murder, your 2-year investigation into Tigger. I know you're 7 months pregnant with a daughter. Congratulations, by the way. And that you've been attending prenatal appointments at St. Mary's Hospital every other Tuesday at 2 p.m. I know you take your coffee with cream, but no sugar, that you're allergic to shellfish, and that you cry every time you watch old videos of your mother singing in the church choir. Zara felt violated, exposed, like every private moment of her life had been stripped bare. I also know, Dimitri continued, his voice softer now, that you're terrified right now, that you think I'm here to hurt you or threaten your baby. But I promise you, Zara, I'm not your enemy. In fact, I might be the only friend you have left. Friends don't break into people's homes in the middle of the night. Dimitri laughed, a genuine sound, warm and surprisingly human. Fair point, but friends also don't let friends face down an entire criminal empire alone, which is what you're doing right now, whether you realize it or not. I have the FBI, Zara said. Agent Sarah Connor is a good woman doing her best in an impossible situation, Dimitri interrupted. But she's one agent in a massive bureaucracy, and that bureaucracy is riddled with people on Calvetti's payroll. Do you really think the man who ran this city's underworld for 30 years didn't have cops, judges, prosecutors in his pocket? Do you really think all of them just disappeared when he got arrested? Zara didn't answer because she knew he was right. She'd seen it already. Witnesses who suddenly couldn't remember key details, evidence that went missing from lockup, media coverage that painted Calvetti as a businessman being railroaded by an overzealous FBI. The machine was working to save him, just like it had worked to protect him for 3 decades. So what are you proposing? Zara asked carefully. That I work with you. Do what exactly? Come out of the closet, Dimitri said. Let me see you face to face. Let's have a real conversation, not one conducted through reinforced steel. I give you my word, and my word is worth considerably more than most people's, that I will not harm you or your baby. Your word means nothing to me. Then believe this. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. If I wanted to hurt you, I could have done so at any point in the past 3 weeks. I cut the power to your building so we could talk privately, without surveillance, without interruption. That's all. Zara's hand rested on her belly, feeling her daughter move beneath her palm. What do I do? What would Mom do? And then she remembered what Tigger had told her, that her mother had looked at a killer and seen someone who could choose differently, someone worth trying to save. Maybe Dmitry Koloff wasn't here to hurt her, or maybe he was, and she was about to make a fatal mistake. But she'd spent 2 years preparing for confrontation, 2 years learning to read people, to assess threats, to trust her instincts, and her instincts said that if Dmitry wanted her dead, she'd be dead already. Slowly, carefully, Zara unlocked the 3 deadbolts and opened the closet door. The man standing in her bedroom was not what she expected. Dmitry Koloff was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair going silver at the temples, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that were an unusual shade of amber. He wore an expensive suit, despite the late hour, but he'd removed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves like this was a business meeting rather than a home invasion. He looked to be in his early 40s, fit but not bulky, and he held himself with the kind of casual confidence that came from never having to prove anything to anyone. Most surprisingly, he was smiling. Not a threatening smile, not a predatory smile. An almost apologetic smile. Thank you for trusting me, he said, taking a careful step back to give her space. I know that couldn't have been easy. Zara emerged from the closet, keeping her distance, positioning herself near the bedroom door in case she needed to run. You said you've been keeping me alive. Why? Because what you did to Calvetti was brilliant, Dmitry said simply. Brutal, strategic, and effective. You exposed him in a way that law enforcement never could have, and you did it with resources most criminal organizations would consider laughable. A live stream, a pregnant waitress, basic psychological warfare. And you brought down one of the most powerful crime bosses on the East Coast. He moved to her bedroom window, looking out at the darkened street. I've been trying to destroy Vincent Calvetti for 15 years. I've lost people I care about to his organization. I've invested millions in surveillance, intelligence gathering, strategic operations. And then you, a 27-year-old woman with no training, no connections, no resources, did in 2 years what I couldn't do in 15. Dimitri turned to face her, and there was genuine respect in his expression. So yes, I've been protecting you, because the world needs more people like you, people who refuse to accept injustice, people who fight back even when the odds are impossible, people who believe that one person can make a difference. Who are you? Zara asked. Really? I told you. My name is Dmitry Koloff. Let's say I'm in the business of correcting imbalances. When powerful people abuse their power, when systems fail the innocent, when justice becomes a commodity only the wealthy can afford, that's when I step in. You're a vigilante. I prefer independent contractor, Dmitry said with a slight smile. But yes, essentially, I have resources, connections, and a particular set of skills that allow me to operate outside traditional legal channels. I do what law enforcement can't or won't do. Zara's mind was reeling. And you want me to… what? Join you? Become some kind of vigilante enforcer? God, no, Dmitry said, looking genuinely horrified. You're 7 months pregnant. The last thing I want is you anywhere near dangerous operations. No, Zara, I want something much simpler. He pulled a folder from inside his jacket and set it on her dresser. I want you to testify. Zara stared at the folder like it might contain a bomb. Testify? I already gave my statement to the FBI. I've been deposed. I'm scheduled to testify at Calvetti's trial if it goes forward. That's the problem, Dmitry said. The trial. If it goes forward. Right now, there's a 70% chance it doesn't. Calvetti's legal team is tearing apart every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every procedural step. They're arguing that your live stream was a form of entrapment, that you lured Tigger to the diner under false pretenses with the intent to extract a coerced confession. That's insane! He came there voluntarily. He confessed voluntarily. In a court of law, voluntary is subject to interpretation, Dmitry said. And Calvetti's lawyers are very good at interpretation. They're also arguing that you had no legal authority to record the confession, that it violates wiretapping laws, that it's inadmissible as evidence. Zara felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. But the FBI was monitoring the backup stream. Agent Connor said what she had to say to keep you cooperating and feeling safe, Dmitry interrupted gently. But the reality is more complicated. The FBI's involvement came after the fact. They were monitoring Isabella's backup stream, yes, but they didn't obtain a warrant beforehand, which means any evidence derived from that stream could potentially be excluded under the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. He gestured to the folder. That folder contains a secondary recording of everything that happened that night, a recording that was obtained with proper legal authorization through surveillance equipment installed by a private security firm operating under contract to a federal task force investigating organized crime. It's admissible, it's bulletproof, and it will ensure Vincent Calvetti never sees the outside of a prison cell again. Zara's eyes narrowed. If you have this recording, why do you need me? Because recordings can be challenged, dismissed, buried in procedural motions, Dmitry said. But a witness, a sympathetic, credible witness who's the daughter of one of Calvetti's victims, that's much harder to discredit. Your testimony, combined with this recording, creates an airtight case, but only if you're willing to testify in a closed grand jury proceeding that's happening in exactly 8 days. 8 days? Zara's hand went to her belly. I could go into early labor. My doctor said… I know what your doctor said, Dmitry interrupted. I also know that if you don't testify, if this case falls apart, Vincent Calvetti walks free. And when he does, the first thing he's going to do is eliminate everyone who helped put him behind bars. Starting with you. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Agent Connor can't protect you, Dmitry continued. The FBI can't protect you, not long term, not with the resources Calvetti has. Witness protection might work for a few years, but he's patient. He'll wait. He'll find you. And he'll make an example of you that ensures nobody ever tries what you tried again. Dmitry moved closer, his voice dropping. But if you testify, if we secure his conviction on charges that carry life without parole, then you're safe. Your daughter is safe. And everyone who helped you, Isabella, Maya, all those families who lost people to Calvetti's organization, they're safe too. Zara looked down at the folder, her mind racing through possibilities, consequences, risks. Why should I trust you? She asked. You broke into my home. You've been watching me for weeks. You claim to be some kind of vigilante hero, But for all I know, you're working for Calvetti. This is a setup, and that folder is a trap designed to get me killed. Dimitri nodded slowly. You're right to be suspicious. You're right not to trust me. So let me give you something you can verify. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times, and held it out to her. On the screen was a video, time-stamped from earlier that evening, showing a warehouse interior. Several men stood around a table covered with money and what looked like kilograms of cocaine, and in the center, giving orders, was someone Zara recognized from news coverage. Anthony Rizzo, Vincent Calvetti's underboss, the man who'd been running operations while Calvetti was in custody. That warehouse is at 2847 Industrial Boulevard, Dimitri said. In approximately, he checked his watch, 90 minutes, the NYPD is going to raid it based on an anonymous tip. They're going to arrest Rizzo and 17 other high-ranking members of Calvetti's organization. They're going to seize $40 million in cash and product. And they're going to deal a blow to Calvetti's empire that he won't recover from, even if he does beat the charges against him. Dimitri pocketed his phone. Tomorrow morning, you can verify that raid happened. You can check the news, confirm the arrests, see that everything I just told you is true. And then you can decide whether to trust me. He moved toward the bedroom door, then paused. One more thing. The man in the black SUV outside, his name is Victor. He's been assigned to protect you 24/7 until the grand jury testimony. You won't always see him, but he'll be there. If anyone, and I mean anyone, approaches you in a threatening manner, Victor will handle it. Consider it a gift. I don't want your gifts, Zara said. Then consider it enlightened self-interest, Dimitri replied with a slight smile. Your survival is important to me, not just because of what you've already accomplished, but because of what you represent. Proof that ordinary people can fight back against extraordinary evil and win. He opened the bedroom door, then looked back at her one last time. 8 days, Zara. Think about it. The folder has all the details, time, location, what you'll need to bring. If you decide to testify, just show up. If you decide not to, I'll respect your choice, and Victor will continue protecting you for as long as it takes to ensure you're safe. And if I go to the FBI right now, Zara challenged, tell them about this conversation. About you, about the folder? Dimitri's smile widened. Then you'll discover that I don't officially exist. No records, no fingerprints in any database, no digital footprint. You'll sound paranoid, possibly delusional, especially with pregnancy hormones affecting your judgment, which is what Calvetti's lawyers will argue if you try to introduce any of this at trial. So I'd advise against it. He stepped into the hallway. The power will be back on in 5 minutes. Good night, Zara. And congratulations again on your daughter. I hope she grows up in a world that's a little bit better because of what her mother did. And then he was gone. Zara stood frozen in her bedroom for a long moment, listening to the sound of her apartment door opening and closing, the soft click of the lock re-engaging. Then she rushed to the window and looked out. The black SUV was still there, engine running. As she watched, Dimitri emerged from her building, got into the passenger side, and the vehicle pulled away smoothly into the night. Exactly 5 minutes later, just as he'd promised, the power came back on. Lights flickered to life. The refrigerator hummed. Her phone, still plugged in on the nightstand, began charging again. Zara sat down heavily on her bed, her hands shaking, her mind reeling. She looked at the folder on her dresser. Plain manila, no markings, just sitting there like an ordinary piece of office supplies, rather than something that might determine whether she lived or died. Her daughter kicked, hard, and Zara felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know what to do, she whispered to her belly. I don't know who to trust. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. The baby kicked again, softer this time, almost gentle, and Zara remembered her mother's words, the ones Tigger had finally shared with her. It's never too late to choose differently. She had 8 days to make a choice. 8 days to decide whether to trust a mysterious vigilante who'd broken into her home. 8 days to determine whether she had the courage to finish what she'd started. 8 days to save herself, her daughter, and maybe, just maybe, an entire city. She picked up her phone and texted Isabella. We need to talk. Tomorrow, in person. It's urgent. The response came within seconds. My place. 9 a.m. I'll make breakfast. Zara set the phone down, walked to the dresser, and opened the folder. Inside were documents, photographs, legal briefs, and a handwritten note on expensive stationery. The question isn't whether you're strong enough. You've already proven you are. The question is whether you're willing to be strong one more time. For her. DK. Zara placed her hand on her belly and made a silent promise to the daughter she hadn't yet met. I will keep you safe, no matter what it costs, no matter what I have to do. I will finish this. Isabella's apartment was a fortress, disguised as a studio loft. On the surface, it looked like any other converted industrial space in Brooklyn. Exposed brick, high ceilings, large windows overlooking the street. But Zara knew better. She'd been here enough times to recognize the reinforced door frame, the security cameras hidden in the light fixtures, the electromagnetic shielding that turned the entire space into a Faraday cage where no signals could penetrate without Isabella's permission. Isabella Chen was brilliant, paranoid, and loyal to a fault, which made her exactly the person Zara needed right now. "Tell me everything," Isabella said the moment Zara walked through the door. She was already pouring coffee, decaf for Zara, regular for herself, and had spread out a breakfast of bagels, cream cheese, and fruit on the kitchen counter. "And I mean everything. Your text last night scared the hell out of me." Zara set the manila folder on the counter and sat down carefully, her belly pressing against the edge of the stool. "Dmitry Koloff broke into my apartment last night." Isabella froze mid-pour. "I'm sorry." "What?" "He cut the power to my entire building, picked my lock, and walked into my bedroom while I was hiding in the panic room closet you designed. Then he told me he's been protecting me for 3 weeks, that Calvetti's lawyers are going to get him released on a technicality, and that I need to testify in a closed grand jury proceeding in 8 days, or we're all going to die." Isabella set the coffee pot down with a hard thunk. Okay, let's unpack that. First question. Are you hurt? Did he threaten you? Touch you? No, he was polite, actually. Professional. He said he wasn't there to hurt me, just to talk. Men who break into pregnant women's apartments in the middle of the night don't get points for being polite, Isabella said sharply. Did you call the police? Agent Connor? Anyone? He said if I reported him, there'd be no record he exists. No fingerprints, no digital footprint, nothing. Zara pushed the folder toward Isabella. He left this. Said it's a legal recording of everything that happened the night we took down Calvetti. Said it's admissible evidence that could guarantee a conviction. Isabella didn't touch the folder. Instead, she walked to her laptop, typed rapidly for a few seconds, then turned the screen toward Zara. Dmitry Koloff, Isabella read from what looked like a heavily encrypted database. Also known as the Arbiter, Russian-American, former FSB officer turned independent contractor, specializes in high-level extractions, corporate espionage, and get this, targeted justice operations against organized crime. She scrolled down, her expression growing darker. He's linked to at least 15 major crime, boss takedowns across 3 continents. His methods are unconventional. He operates entirely outside legal channels, but his targets are always people law enforcement can't or won't touch. No confirmed kills, but plenty of people who crossed him have ended up dead or in prison. And here's the kicker. Isabella turned the laptop back around, her fingers flying across the keys. He's never been caught, never been photographed, never been definitively proven to exist. He's a ghost. A very dangerous, very effective ghost. Zara's hands tightened around her coffee mug. So he's telling the truth. About existing and being dangerous? Yes. About everything else? Isabella shrugged. That's what we need to figure out. But first we need to verify his claim about the raid. Isabella pulled up several news websites, refreshing them every few seconds. At 8:47 a.m., the headline appeared on the New York Times. Major drug bust. NYPD arrests 18 in Calvetti organization raid. Isabella clicked through to the article, and they read together. In a coordinated operation early this morning, the NYPD executed a raid on a warehouse at 2847 Industrial Boulevard, arresting Anthony Rizzo, alleged underboss of the Calvetti crime family, along with 17 other high-ranking members of the organization. Police seized approximately $40 million in cash and narcotics. The raid comes 3 weeks after Vincent Calvetti's arrest on racketeering and murder charges. Zara's breath caught. He was telling the truth. Everything he said, the location, the timing, the arrests, it all happened exactly like he predicted. Or he orchestrated it, Isabella said carefully. Zara, you understand what this means, right? If Dmitry Koloff has the kind of intelligence network that lets him predict NYPD operations with that level of precision, he's either working with law enforcement at the highest levels, or he has surveillance capabilities that make my setup look like a child's toy. Does it matter? Zara asked. If he's telling the truth about the recording, if he can help guarantee Calvetti's conviction. Of course it matters. Isabella's voice rose, sharp with worry. You're talking about trusting a man who literally doesn't exist. A man who broke into your apartment and could have done anything to you. A man whose methods involve operating completely outside the law. What happens if you testify using his evidence and it comes out that it was obtained illegally? What happens if he's playing a deeper game we don't understand? Zara set down her coffee mug, her hand moving to her belly. The baby was active this morning, rolling and kicking, like she could sense her mother's stress. Then tell me what I should do, Zara said quietly. Because right now, I'm 7 months pregnant, I've got a target on my back, and the man I risked everything to bring down might walk free because of legal technicalities I don't understand. So, if you've got a better plan, I'm listening. Isabella's expression softened. She came around the counter and sat next to Zara, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. I don't have a better plan, Isabella admitted. I hate that. I hate that after everything we did, everything we planned, we're still at the mercy of a system designed to protect people like Calvetti. But that doesn't mean trusting Dmitry Koloff is the answer either. So what do we do? Isabella was quiet for a long moment. Then she straightened her shoulders, her expression shifting from worried friend to strategic operative. We verify everything. The folder, the recording, the legal standing of the evidence. We find out exactly what Koloff is offering and whether it's legitimate or a trap. And we do it in the next 8 days. She pulled the manila folder toward her and opened it carefully, like it might explode. Inside were dozens of pages. Legal documents, technical specifications for surveillance equipment, chain of custody reports, and a USB drive labeled simply, June 23rd, 2025, Silver Spoon Diner. This is... Isabella trailed off, scanning the documents rapidly. Jesus Christ, Zara, this is professional-grade intelligence work. Audio and video from 6 different angles, all from equipment registered to a legitimate private security firm that's contracted with federal law enforcement. Timestamps match your stream exactly. Chain of custody is documented and notarized. If this is real, if this is actually admissible evidence, it's bulletproof. Can you verify it? Zara asked. I can verify the equipment specifications and the legal paperwork, Isabella said. But whether the recording itself is authentic? That's going to take time and expertise I don't have. We need someone who understands federal evidence law. Someone we can trust. Maya, Zara interrupted. Maya Brennan. She's a defense attorney. She'd know how to evaluate this. Isabella nodded slowly. Maya's good. But Zara, if we bring her into this, we're putting her at risk too. Calvetti's people are already targeting anyone involved in his prosecution. Adding more people to the circle. She deserves to know, Zara said firmly. Her father was one of Tigger's victims. She's been fighting for justice as long as I have. If there's a chance this evidence can guarantee Calvetti stays locked up, she has a right to be part of that decision. Isabella studied Zara's face for a moment, then nodded. All right. I'll reach out to Maya. But we do this carefully. Encrypted communications only. No phones, no emails that can be traced. We meet in person, somewhere public, but with enough noise to prevent surveillance. She pulled out her laptop and began typing. And Zara, about the man in the black SUV, Victor, Koloff called him? You've seen him? He's been parked outside my building since 6 a.m., Isabella said, without looking up from her screen. Black SUV, tinted windows, engine running. I ran the plates. They're registered to a shell company that doesn't exist, which means Koloff wasn't lying about that either. You've got protection, whether you want it or not. They met Maya 3 hours later in the chaos of Grand Central Terminal. The massive main concourse was packed with tourists, commuters, and travelers. Hundreds of people moving in organized chaos beneath the famous constellation ceiling. It was exactly the kind of place where 3 women having an intense conversation would blend in completely, where the ambient noise would defeat all but the most sophisticated surveillance equipment. Maya arrived carrying a leather briefcase and wearing the determined expression of someone who'd just learned there might be hope after years of hopelessness. Is it real? She asked, before Zara even finished explaining. Is the evidence legitimate? That's what we need you to tell us, Isabella said, handing over the folder and USB drive. You're the legal expert. Can this be used to guarantee Calvetti's conviction? Maya found a relatively quiet corner near the oyster bar, pulled out her laptop, and spent the next 40 minutes reviewing every document, playing portions of the recording, cross-referencing legal citations, and taking notes in a legal pad covered in precise handwriting. Finally, she looked up, and her eyes were shining. It's real, she said, her voice thick with emotion. It's all real. The recording is authentic. I can tell by the metadata and the technical specifications. The equipment was legally deployed as part of an ongoing federal investigation into organized crime. The chain of custody is perfect. And most importantly, it includes footage and audio that your original stream didn't capture. What do you mean? Zara asked. Maya turned her laptop screen toward them. On it, the recording showed the diner from an angle Zara recognized. Somewhere high up, maybe a camera mounted on the wall near the ceiling, but the timestamp showed 9:30 p.m., half an hour before. Tigger had arrived. In the footage, two men sat in a booth near the back. One was Vincent Calvetti, the other was someone Zara didn't recognize. Older, distinguished, wearing a suit that screamed power and money. "That's Judge Harold Whitmore," Maya said quietly. "Federal judge. He's been assigned to preside over Calvetti's trial." Zara's blood ran cold. "Why is Calvetti meeting with the judge assigned to his case?" "Exactly," Maya said grimly. She advanced the footage, and they watched as Calvetti slid an envelope across the table. Judge Whitmore opened it, glanced inside, and nodded. The two men shook hands, and the judge left through the back exit. "This is evidence of judicial corruption," Maya continued. "Direct proof that Calvetti was attempting to fix his own trial. With this footage, not only does Calvetti stay in prison, but Judge Whitmore gets removed from the case and likely disbarred and prosecuted himself. It changes everything." Isabella leaned back, processing. "So Dmitry Koloff didn't just give us evidence against Calvetti. He gave us evidence that the entire trial was compromised from the start. Which means, if Zara testifies in the grand jury proceeding and presents this evidence," Maya said, "it doesn't matter what Calvetti's lawyers try to argue. The case gets moved to a clean judge, the prosecution gets reinforced with additional charges, and there's no way, no possible way, Calvetti walks free." Zara felt something shift in her chest. Not quite hope. It was too fragile for that, but maybe the beginning of hope. The first whisper that maybe, just maybe, this would actually work. "So I should testify," Zara said. "Wait." Isabella held up a hand. "Before we make that decision, we need to talk about the other possibility, the one where this is all a setup." Maya frowned. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," Isabella said. "Dmitry Koloff is a ghost. He operates outside the law. He has resources and intelligence networks that rival national governments. What if this recording is fake? What if it's designed to look authentic, to pass legal scrutiny, but it's actually fabricated? Zara testifies, presents this evidence, and then it gets exposed as fraudulent. She goes to prison for perjury. Calvetti walks free with even more ammunition to argue he's being persecuted. And everyone who helped, me, Maya, Agent Connor, we all go down too." The hope that had been building in Zara's chest crumbled. "How do we know if it's real?" she asked. "We can't," Isabella admitted. "Not with 100% certainty. Not without access to the original surveillance equipment, which we don't have. Not without weeks of forensic analysis by experts, which we don't have time for. We can verify the legal paperwork, the technical specs, the metadata, and it all checks out, but could someone with Koloff's resources fake all of that? Possibly. So we're back where we started," Zara said, her voice hollow. "Trusting someone we don't know with evidence we can't fully verify." Maya closed her laptop slowly, her expression thoughtful. "Not quite," she said. "There's one thing we can do. One person who might be able to tell us if this is legitimate or not." "Who?" Zara asked. "Thomas Rake," Maya said. "Tigger. He was there that night. He saw Calvetti meeting with Judge Whitmore, or he didn't. He knows what happened in that diner before you arrived. If the recording shows something that really happened, Tigger can confirm it. If it's fake, he'll know." Isabella shook her head. "Tigger's in federal holding. There's no way we can get access to him without going through official channels, which means Agent Connor would find out, which means we ask Agent Connor for help," Maya interrupted. "Look, we've been treating her like she's part of the problem. But what if she's not? What if she's just as frustrated with how this case is falling apart as we are? What if she'd welcome evidence that could save the prosecution? Or what if she's compromised like Judge Whitmore?" Isabella countered. "What if we hand this to Connor and she makes it disappear because she's on Calvetti's payroll? Then we make copies," Zara said suddenly. Both women turned to look at her. "We make multiple copies of everything, the documents, the recording, all of it. We encrypt them and store them in different locations with different people. Then we approach Agent Connor with a copy, not the original. If she tries to bury it, we still have backup. If she's legitimate and wants to help, we give her the tools to do it." Isabella's expression shifted to something like pride. "That's actually brilliant. Risky, but brilliant. It's also our only option," Maya added. "We've got 8 days. That's not enough time to independently verify every aspect of this evidence, but it is enough time to approach Connor, set up a meeting with Tigger, and get confirmation about what really happened that night. If Tigger verifies the recording is real, then we move forward with the grand jury testimony. If he says it's fake, we walk away and find another strategy." Zara looked between her two friends, the only people in the world she truly trusted right now, and saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her own heart. "All right," she said. "Let's do it. Contact Agent Connor. Tell her we have evidence that could save the case, but we need something in return. A face-to-face meeting with Thomas Rake. If she agrees, we move forward. If she refuses, then we know she's compromised, Isabella finished, and we find another way. The call to Agent Connor was made from a burner phone in the middle of Central Park, with enough ambient noise to defeat basic surveillance, and Isabella running counter-surveillance protocols on her laptop to detect any attempts to trace the call. Agent Connor, this is Zara Ripley, Zara said when the agent answered. I need to meet with you. Today. In person. I have information about the Calvetti case, but I need something from you first. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What kind of information? Connor asked carefully. The kind that could guarantee Calvetti never sees freedom again, Zara replied. But I need to verify it's authentic before I hand it over. And to do that, I need to speak with Thomas Rake. Face to face. No recording devices. Just him and me. Another pause. Longer this time. That's highly irregular, Connor said. Rake is a federal witness. Access to him is strictly controlled. I'd need authorization from... Then get it, Zara interrupted. Because if this evidence is real, it proves judicial corruption at the highest levels of Calvetti's prosecution. It shows Judge Whitmore taking a bribe directly from Calvetti. It changes everything. She heard Connor's sharp intake of breath. Are you telling me you have footage of Whitmore and Calvetti meeting? I'm telling you I have footage that might show that, Zara corrected. But I need to verify it's real before I go public with it. If it's authentic and we present it, Calvetti goes down and takes a corrupt federal judge with him. If it's fake and we present it, we all go to prison and Calvetti walks free with the perfect persecution narrative. Where did you get this footage? Connor asked, and there was an edge to her voice now. Suspicion, maybe, or concern. I can't tell you that until I know which side you're on, Zara said bluntly. Are you working to put Calvetti away, or are you part of the system protecting him? Because right now, I don't know who to trust, but if you can get me that meeting with Rake, if you can help me verify this evidence is real, then I'll know you're on the right side. The silence stretched for almost 30 seconds. Then, where are you right now? Central Park. Bethesda Fountain. Stay there. I'm coming to you. And Zara? Connor's voice softened slightly. I'm on your side. I've always been on your side. But you need to trust me the same way you're asking me to trust you. The call ended. Isabella looked at Zara, concern written across her face. She could be coming with backup. Could be walking into a trap. I know, Zara said, one hand on her belly, feeling her daughter move beneath her palm. But we're out of options. Either we trust Connor, or we walk away from the only evidence that might keep Calvetti locked up. And if it's a trap? Maya asked. Zara looked at her friends, at Isabella with her brilliant mind and fierce loyalty, at Maya with her determination and legal expertise, and felt a surge of gratitude so strong it brought tears to her eyes. Then at least we went down fighting, Zara said. At least we didn't give up. At least my daughter will know her mother tried to make the world better. Isabella grabbed her hand. Maya grabbed the other. If this goes south, Isabella said, we all go down together. You're not facing this alone. Never alone, Maya agreed. And for the first time in 3 weeks, since the night she'd brought down Vincent Calvetti and watched her carefully constructed plan start to unravel, Zara felt something she'd almost forgotten. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't fighting an impossible battle. She was fighting with people who believed in the same things she did, and sometimes that was enough. Agent Sarah Connor arrived at Bethesda Fountain with 2 things Zara hadn't expected: authorization papers for the meeting with Thomas Rake, and a look of exhausted determination that suggested she'd been fighting battles of her own. You have 1 hour, Connor said, handing Zara the documents as they stood beneath the angel statue, tourists flowing around them like water around stones. Federal holding facility in Lower Manhattan. Rake has agreed to the meeting on condition that it's just you and him. No recording devices, no other agents present. Just a single guard outside the room. Zara took the papers with shaking hands. You got approval that fast? I didn't ask for approval, Connor said, and there was something dangerous in her smile. I invoked emergency witness protection protocols. Technically, you're a material witness in active danger, and I'm exercising my authority to facilitate communications necessary for your safety and the integrity of the investigation. My supervisors will have questions later, but by then we'll either have the evidence we need, or we'll all be looking for new jobs. Isabella stepped forward, laptop tucked under her arm. You're putting your career on the line for this? I'm putting my career on the line to put Vincent Calvetti away, Connor corrected. Something I've been trying to do for 3 years while watching evidence disappear, witnesses recant, and judges get assigned who have suspiciously close ties to organized crime. So yes, I'm breaking protocol, because at this point, protocol is what's protecting him, not bringing him down. She looked directly at Zara. And for the first time, Zara saw the real person beneath the federal agent exterior. Someone who was tired, angry, and desperate for something to finally go right. "Whatever evidence you have, whatever you need to verify, I need to know it's real too," Connor said. "Because if we present fabricated evidence in a grand jury proceeding, we don't just lose Calvetti. We lose our credibility, our careers, and any future chance of bringing down his organization. So if meeting with Rake helps you verify authenticity, then that's what we do." Maya glanced at Zara, a silent question in her eyes. "Do we tell her about Dmitry Koloff?" Zara made the decision in a split second. The evidence came from someone outside official channels. Someone with resources and intelligence capabilities that rival government agencies. Someone who claims to have been working to bring down Calvetti for 15 years. Connor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. "Does this someone have a name?" she asked carefully. "Dmitry Koloff." Connor closed her eyes briefly, and when she opened them, she looked simultaneously relieved and terrified. "Jesus Christ!" "The Arbiter." "You know him?" Isabella asked sharply. "Not personally. Nobody knows him personally. That's the whole point." Connor looked around the crowded fountain area, suddenly paranoid, then gestured for them to follow her to a more secluded spot beneath some trees. "Dmitry Koloff is a legend in federal law enforcement. Half the agents I know think he's a myth. The other half think he's the most dangerous vigilante operating in the Western Hemisphere. He's been linked to at least 20 major organized crime takedowns, but we've never been able to prove he exists, let alone prosecute him for anything." "So you're saying he's credible?" Zara asked. "I'm saying he's effective," Connor corrected. "Whether that makes him credible or dangerous depends on whether his interests align with ours. If he gave you evidence against Calvetti, it's because taking down Calvetti serves whatever larger agenda he's pursuing. That doesn't necessarily make the evidence fake, but it doesn't make it trustworthy either." She pulled out her own phone, typed something, then showed them the screen. It was an encrypted message thread, the sender identified only as Arbiter. The messages were simple. "Connor, I have footage of Whitmore taking a bribe from Calvetti. Can you verify authenticity?" "Arbiter, give it to the Ripley girl. She'll know what to do with it." "Connor, why her?" "Arbiter, because she already proved she's willing to burn it all down to see justice served. You haven't, not yet." Connor pocketed her phone. "That was 6 days ago. I've been waiting for you to come to me with this. And now that you have, I need to know. Are you willing to testify if the evidence checks out? Are you willing to risk everything, including your life and your daughter's life, to finish this?" Zara's hand moved to her belly, and she felt her daughter kick, strong and insistent. What would Mom do? But she already knew the answer. Her mother had stood up to a killer and tried to save his soul, even knowing it would cost her everything. Her mother had chosen courage over safety, hope over fear, right over easy. "Yes," Zara said. "If the evidence is real, I'll testify. I'll do whatever it takes." Connor nodded slowly. "Then let's go verify it. You've got an appointment with Thomas Rake in 90 minutes. I suggest we don't waste time." The federal holding facility was everything Zara expected, and worse. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights that hummed with electronic malevolence, guards with dead eyes, and hands that never strayed far from their weapons. They processed her through 3 separate security checkpoints, confiscated her phone, her keys, even her jacket, leaving her in just jeans and a maternity top that suddenly felt far too thin. Connor walked her to a small interview room, 8 by 10 feet, a table bolted to the floor, 2 chairs, a camera mounted in the corner that Connor unplugged personally. "I'll be right outside," Connor said. "You've got 1 hour. Get the truth." The door closed with a heavy clang, and Zara was alone. She sat down carefully, her back aching from the baby's weight, and waited. 5 minutes later, the door opened again, and Thomas Rake walked in. He looked worse than the last time she'd seen him, thinner, grayer. The orange jumpsuit hung on his frame like it was 2 sizes too large, and there were shadows under his eyes so deep they looked like bruises. But when he saw Zara, something in his expression lightened. Not quite hope, but maybe relief. "You came," he said, his voice hoarse. "I need your help," Zara replied, not bothering with pleasantries. "I need you to tell me if something is real or fake. And I need you to tell me the truth, no matter what." Tigger sat down across from her, his cuffed hands resting on the table. "I've got nothing but truth left. What do you need to know?" Zara pulled out a tablet, one of the few items Connor had allowed her to bring in, and queued up the footage Dmitry had provided. She turned the screen toward Tigger. "June 23rd, the night I brought you to the diner. This footage allegedly shows Vincent Calvetti meeting with Judge Harold Whitmore at 9:30 p.m., half an hour before you arrived. I need to know if this really happened or if it's fabricated. Tigger watched the video, his expression carefully neutral. Zara saw the moment Calvetti appeared on screen, saw Tigger's jaw tighten when Judge Whitmore entered the frame, saw his eyes widen slightly when the envelope exchanged hands. The video ended. Tigger sat back in his chair, his face pale. "It's real," he said quietly. "I watched it happen. I was sitting in my car across the street, waiting for my meeting time with you. I saw Calvetti go in through the back entrance around 9:25, saw Whitmore arrive 10 minutes later. They were in there for about 15 minutes, then Whitmore left first, Calvetti a few minutes after. I remember thinking it was weird. Calvetti never did his own pickups or drops anymore, always sent someone else, but he was there personally that night." "Why didn't you mention this before?" Zara asked. "When you were confessing, when you were cooperating with the FBI, why didn't you tell anyone about this?" Tigger's laugh was bitter. "Because I didn't think it mattered. I was confessing to 43 murders, Zara. What's one more piece of corruption? Besides, I figured the feds already knew. Figured they were all in on it together." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "But you should know something else. That wasn't the first time I saw Calvetti meet with Whitmore. I saw them together at least 3 other times over the past 2 years. Once at a restaurant in Queens, once at a golf course in New Jersey, once at Calvetti's social club. They weren't just bribing a judge for this trial. They'd been cultivating him for years, making sure that if Calvetti ever got arrested, Whitmore would be in position to protect him." Zara's blood ran cold. "So this goes deeper than one bribe." "This goes deeper than you can imagine," Tigger said. "Whitmore isn't the only one. There are prosecutors, police captains, city council members. Calvetti spent 30 years building a network that protects him at every level. Taking him down isn't just about putting one man in prison. It's about dismantling an entire system of corruption." "Can you testify to all of this?" Zara asked. "Can you provide names, dates, locations?" "I can," Tigger said. "I've already told the FBI most of it, but they keep saying there's not enough corroborating evidence. That it's just my word against powerful people who have alibis and explanations. But if you've got footage, if you've got proof..." He stopped, his eyes searching Zara's face. "Where did you get this recording? This kind of surveillance equipment? This angle? This quality? It's not amateur work. Someone with serious resources set this up." "Does it matter?" Zara asked. "If the recording is real, if it can be used to take down Calvetti and everyone protecting him, does it matter where it came from?" Tigger was quiet for a long moment. "Your mother asked me something similar," he finally said. "That night, when I was about to shoot her, she said, 'Does it matter what you've been? All that matters is what you choose to be next.' And I didn't listen. I made the wrong choice. I've been making the wrong choice for 27 years. His eyes filled with tears. "So no, it doesn't matter where the recording came from. What matters is what you do with it. And Zara, whatever you decide, testify, don't testify, use the evidence, bury it. Just promise me you'll make the choice that lets you sleep at night, because I haven't slept well in 2 decades, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone, especially not you." The hour passed faster than Zara expected. Tigger told her everything he knew about Calvetti's network. The judges, the prosecutors, the police captains who looked the other way. He gave her names, dates, meeting locations. He described the structure of the organization, the hierarchy of corruption that kept it all running smoothly. And he told her something else, something that made Zara's blood run cold. "There's a contract out on you," Tigger said. "Not from Calvetti directly. He's too smart to order a hit from federal custody. But from his people on the outside. $250,000 to whoever delivers your body before the grand jury testimony. They're worried about what you might say, what evidence you might present. They want you dead, Zara, and they're not going to stop until you are." "I know," Zara said quietly. "That's why I've got protection." "Protection from who?" "Someone who's decided I'm more valuable alive than dead." Tigger studied her face, and understanding dawned in his eyes. "The arbiter, Dmitry Koloff. He's the one who gave you the recording." "How did you?" "Because he's the only one who could get this kind of footage without Calvetti knowing," Tigger said. "The only one with the resources, the intelligence network, the sheer balls to surveil a mafia boss without getting caught. I've heard stories about him for years. Everyone in the organization has. He's the boogeyman we tell each other about late at night. The man who brings down people who think they're untouchable." He leaned forward, his voice urgent now. "If Koloff is protecting you, you're safer than you'd be with the entire FBI. But Zara, you need to understand something. Men like him don't do favors out of kindness. They do favors because they expect something in return. And whatever he expects from you, it's going to be more than just testimony. The door opened before Zara could respond. Connor stood in the doorway, her expression grim. Time's up. We need to go. Now. What's wrong? Zara asked, standing quickly. Anthony Rizzo posted bail 10 minutes ago, Connor said. Calvetti's underboss. The one we arrested 3 weeks ago with $40 million in drugs and cash. A federal judge, not Whitmore, but someone just as dirty, accepted a $50 million bond and released him. Rizzo walked out of federal custody 20 minutes ago, and our surveillance team lost him in traffic. Zara's heart stopped. What does that mean? It means Calvetti's organization just got its second-in-command back, Connor said. And the first thing Rizzo's going to do is clean house, eliminate threats, secure assets, and remove anyone who might testify against the family. She looked at Tigger, then back at Zara. It means the hit on you just became active, and we need to get you somewhere safe right now. They moved fast. Connor had 2 unmarked vehicles waiting outside the facility, one as a decoy, one as the real transport. Isabella and Maya were already in the second vehicle, looking terrified but determined. Connor pushed Zara into the back seat next to them, climbed into the passenger seat, and nodded to the driver. Federal Safe House in Westchester, she said. Route Alpha, move. The car pulled out into traffic, and Zara looked back at the federal facility, wondering if she'd ever see Thomas Rake again, wondering if the information he'd given her would be enough. Did he verify the footage? Isabella asked urgently. It's real, Zara confirmed. All of it. Tigger saw the meeting happen. He's willing to testify to years of corruption, not just one bribe. If we present this evidence— When you present this evidence, Connor corrected. The grand jury hearing is in 6 days. We're moving it up from 8 days because we can't risk waiting any longer. Can you be ready? I don't have a choice, Zara said. Maya grabbed her hand. Yes, you do. You always have a choice. You can say no. You can walk away. You can go into witness protection, change your name, disappear, and spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, Zara interrupted. Wondering when Calvetti's people will find me. Raising my daughter in fear? No, I didn't come this far to run now. The car suddenly swerved hard, throwing them all against their seatbelts. The driver cursed, and Connor pulled out her weapon. What is it? She demanded. Black SUV, the driver said. 2 of them. They just boxed us in. Zara's stomach dropped. She looked out the rear window and saw them. 2 vehicles matching the description of Dimitri's protection detail, moving in perfect coordination to trap their car between them. That's not Calvetti's people, Zara said quickly. That's— One of the SUVs pulled alongside them, and the passenger window rolled down. Dmitry Koloff sat in the back seat, his phone pressed to his ear. He made a gesture. Roll down your window. And Connor hesitated for only a second before complying. Agent Connor, Dimitri's voice came through clearly, despite the traffic noise. You're heading to the Westchester Safe House. Bad idea. Rizzo got the location 10 minutes ago from a clerk in your office who's been on Calvetti's payroll for 18 months. There's a team waiting there to intercept you. Connor's face went white. How do you— Because I've had surveillance on every member of Calvetti's organization for the past month, Dmitry interrupted. I know where Rizzo is right now. He's in a warehouse in Red Hook coordinating the hit. I know which routes he's sent teams to cover. And I know that if you continue on your current path, Zara Ripley will be dead within the hour. Then where do we go? Connor demanded. Dmitry smiled, and it was the smile of a man who'd been waiting for this moment. You follow me. I'll take you somewhere Calvetti's people will never think to look. Somewhere you can prep Zara for testimony, review the evidence, and plan your attack. But Connor? His expression turned deadly serious. When this is over, when Calvetti is convicted and his empire is dismantled, you and I are going to have a conversation about how deep the corruption goes in your agency. Because right now, you've got a leak that's going to get people killed, and I'm the only one who knows where it's coming from. Connor stared at him for a long moment, weighing impossible choices. Then she nodded to her driver. Follow the SUVs. They drove for 40 minutes, taking a maze of turns that left Zara completely disoriented, until finally pulling into an underground parking garage beneath what looked like an ordinary office building in Midtown Manhattan. Dmitry was waiting for them when they got out of the car. Welcome to Sanctuary, he said, gesturing to an elevator. Probably the safest place in New York City for anyone Calvetti wants dead. The elevator descended, not up into the building, but down, deep underground. When the doors opened, Zara found herself in what could only be described as a high-tech bunker. Multiple rooms branching off a central corridor, all equipped with computers, secure communications equipment, and enough supplies to withstand a siege. "What is this place?" Isabella breathed, her eyes wide. "Think of it as a crisis operations center," Dmitri said. "I use it for planning operations that require absolute secrecy. It's equipped with everything you'll need: secure internet, encrypted communications, facilities for reviewing evidence, and enough supplies to keep you comfortable for the next 6 days until Zara's testimony." He led them to a large conference room, dominated by a wall of monitors. With a few keystrokes, the screens came alive with surveillance footage, maps, data streams, a real-time intelligence operation that made the FBI's setup look primitive by comparison. "Here's the situation," Dmitri said, pulling up a map of New York City dotted with red markers. Each of these markers represents a team of Calvetti's people currently searching for Zara. 16 teams, 83 people total, all armed and motivated by that $250,000 bounty. They've got surveillance at hospitals, airports, bus terminals, train stations. They've compromised safe houses, bribed officials, and put pressure on anyone they think might know where Zara is. He zoomed in on one marker in Red Hook. "This is Anthony Rizzo's current location. He's coordinating the search personally. And according to the communications my people have intercepted, he's getting desperate. Calvetti's trial date is approaching fast, and they know that if Zara testifies with the evidence she has, it's over. Not just for Calvetti, but for everyone in the organization who's been protected by their network of corruption." Connor stepped forward, studying the map. "You've had surveillance on all of these people? For how long?" 18 months, Dmitri said. "Since I learned that Vincent Calvetti was planning to make a move on territory belonging to someone I'm invested in protecting, I've been building a case against his entire organization, documenting every transaction, every meeting, every illegal operation. What Zara did, exposing Tigger's confession, forcing the FBI to act, that accelerated my timeline considerably." He turned to face them all, his expression serious. "The evidence you have is real. The footage of Judge Whitmore is authentic. The documentation is bulletproof. But here's what you need to understand. Presenting this evidence doesn't just take down Calvetti. It takes down everyone connected to him. Judges, prosecutors, police captains, the politicians, dozens of people whose careers and freedom depend on keeping Calvetti's empire intact." "Good," Maya said fiercely. "They deserve to go down." "Agreed," Dmitri said. "But it means that between now and the grand jury testimony, those people are going to throw everything they have at stopping Zara. Legal challenges, procedural motions, attempts to discredit her, and, if those fail, direct violence." He pulled up another screen showing a document. "This is a motion filed 2 hours ago by Calvetti's legal team. They're arguing that Zara is an unreliable witness due to pregnancy-related cognitive impairment. They're presenting medical studies, expert testimony, the whole package. It's insulting, misogynistic, and completely baseless, but it might work with the right judge. Which is why we need to move fast," Connor said. "Present the evidence before they can tie us up in legal red tape. Get in, testify, get the indictments, and secure protection for everyone involved." "Exactly," Dmitri agreed. He looked at Zara. "Which means for the next 6 days, you don't leave this facility. You don't contact anyone outside. This room. You eat, sleep, and breathe preparation for that testimony. Because when you walk into that grand jury room, you need to be perfect. Unshakable. Beyond any doubt." Zara placed both hands on her belly, feeling her daughter kick. "I'll be ready," she said. And for the first time since this nightmare began, she actually believed it. The next 6 days were the most intense of Zara's life. Connor brought in a team of federal prosecutors, ones she'd personally vetted, ones she trusted, to prep Zara on grand jury procedures, likely questions, and how to present evidence in a way that was compelling and legally sound. Maya worked with them to anticipate defense strategies, to prepare responses to every possible objection, to ensure that every piece of testimony was airtight. Isabella set up secure communications with the FBI's tech team, coordinating the chain of custody for the evidence, ensuring that every legal requirement was met, that there were no gaps Calvetti's lawyers could exploit. And Dmitri watched over it all like a guardian angel with a very dark past, his surveillance network tracking every move Calvetti's people made, intercepting their communications, staying 3 steps ahead of every threat. On the 5th day, as Zara sat in the conference room reviewing her testimony notes for the 100th time, Dmitri sat down across from her. "Tomorrow's the day," he said. "Are you afraid?" "Terrified," Zara admitted. "But not of testifying. I'm afraid of what happens after. Afraid that even if we win, even if Calvetti goes away forever, my daughter will spend her whole life dealing with the consequences of what I did." Dmitri nodded slowly. "My daughter is 32 now, lives in Seattle, runs a non-profit helping at-risk youth. She hasn't spoken to me in 15 years. Zara looked up. surprised. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to understand that the choices we make, even the right choices, especially the right choices, they have costs. I've spent my life fighting people like Calvetti, dismantling criminal empires, trying to create a world that's a little bit safer, a little bit more just. But I did it by becoming someone my daughter couldn't love. Someone who operated outside the law, who made choices she couldn't forgive." He leaned forward, his amber eyes intense. "You're about to make a choice that will define the rest of your life and your daughter's life. And I need you to be certain, absolutely certain, that you can live with the consequences, because once you testify, once you expose the truth, there's no going back. Your life will never be the same." Zara was quiet for a long moment, her hands resting on her belly. "My mother chose to see the humanity in a monster," she finally said. "She chose courage over safety. She chose hope over fear. And it got her killed." She looked up at Dimitri, and her eyes were clear, certain. But it also meant that 23 years later, her daughter knew what real courage looked like, knew what it meant to stand up for what's right, even when it costs you everything. "My mother's choice gave me the strength to make mine. And I hope, I really hope, that my choice will give my daughter the same thing." Dimitri smiled, and for the first time since Zara met him, it was a genuinely warm smile. "Your mother would be very proud of you," he said. "And your daughter will be too." The morning of the grand jury testimony arrived with grey skies and the threat of rain. Zara woke up at 5 a.m., took a long shower, dressed in the professional outfit Maya had brought her, a maternity dress that was formal but comfortable, black with a soft blue pattern that brought out her eyes. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw her mother's face staring back. The same determination, the same fire, the same refusal to back down. "I'm doing this for you, Mom, for everyone who couldn't fight back, for my daughter, for all of us." Connor had arranged for a secure convoy, 3 vehicles, all armored, with FBI agents trained in protective operations. The plan was to go straight from the bunker to the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, testify, and then return to a different safe location while the indictments were processed. "Stick to the testimony we practiced," Connor reminded her as they prepared to leave. "Answer only the questions asked. Don't volunteer information. Be clear, be confident, and remember, you're not on trial. You're the witness who's going to help us put the real criminals where they belong." Zara nodded, her heart pounding, but her hands steady. They loaded into the vehicles, Zara, Connor, Maya, and Isabella in the middle vehicle, with armed agents in the cars ahead and behind. Dimitri had his own people running parallel surveillance, monitoring for threats, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. The drive was tense, silent, every person in the car hyper-aware of how much was riding on the next few hours. And then, as they were 3 blocks from the courthouse, it happened. The lead vehicle exploded. The blast was deafening, a pressure wave that rocked their car even through the armored plating. The driver slammed on the brakes and Connor was already on the radio, calling for backup, calling for medical, her voice sharp and controlled despite the chaos. "Stay in the vehicle," she shouted to Zara. "Do not." But Zara was already looking out the window, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Men with guns, 6 of them, emerging from a delivery truck that had pulled across the intersection, cutting off their escape route. Professional, coordinated, moving with military precision. "Rizzo's people," Connor said grimly, pulling out her weapon. "They knew our route. They knew exactly where to hit us." The back vehicle was already responding, agents piling out with weapons drawn, shouting commands, trying to establish a perimeter. But Rizzo's team was prepared for that. Smoke grenades detonated, filling the street with thick grey clouds that made it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. "We need to move," the driver said urgently. "We can't stay here." A bullet punched through the windshield, not penetrating the armored glass, but leaving a spiderweb of cracks that made it impossible to see forward. "Out!" Connor commanded. "Everyone out! Stay low! Move toward the courthouse on foot! It's 3 blocks! We can make it!" They scrambled out of the vehicle, Isabella and Maya on either side of Zara, Connor and 2 agents forming a protective shield around them. Gunfire echoed through the smoke-filled street, and Zara couldn't tell who was shooting at whom, couldn't tell which direction was safe. And then, through the smoke, Zara saw him. Anthony Rizzo, Calvetti's underboss, holding a gun, walking directly toward her with the calm of someone who knew he'd already won. "Zara Ripley," he called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. "The woman who started a war. Vincent sends his regards." Connor stepped in front of Zara, her weapon raised. "FBI, drop your weapon!" Rizzo smiled. You're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options, Agent. Your backup is minutes away, and we'll be gone in seconds. Just give us the girl, and nobody else has to die today. Not happening, Connor said. Rizzo's smile widened. I was hoping you'd say that. He raised his gun toward Connor. And a shot rang out, but it didn't come from Rizzo's gun. Rizzo dropped, a bullet hole in his shoulder, his weapon clattering to the ground. And emerging from the smoke, moving with lethal grace, were 6 figures dressed in black tactical gear. Dimitri's people. They moved through Rizzo's team like ghosts, disarming them with efficiency that spoke of serious military training, securing the area in less than 30 seconds. And then Dimitri himself appeared, helping Rizzo to his feet with one hand while collecting his weapon with the other. Anthony Rizzo, Dimitri said pleasantly, you're under arrest for attempted murder of a federal witness, conspiracy to commit murder, and really terrible timing. The FBI will be taking custody of you shortly, but first, he pulled out his phone and held it up, showing a live stream that was broadcasting to thousands of viewers. Everyone on the internet is going to watch you explain why you just tried to kill a pregnant woman on her way to testify against your boss. Rizzo's face went pale, and Zara understood. Dimitri had turned the attack into evidence, had documented everything, had made sure that even if Rizzo's team had succeeded in killing her, the world would know exactly who was responsible and why. Connor was already moving, her team securing Rizzo and his men, calling for medical support, coordinating with backup units that were now flooding the area. And Zara stood in the middle of it all, her hands on her belly, her daughter kicking beneath her palms, and felt something shift inside her. This was it. This was the moment everything had been building toward. Can you walk? Dimitri asked, appearing at her side. Yes, Zara said. Then let's finish this. They arrived at the courthouse, surrounded by what felt like half the FBI's New York field office. The media was already there. Someone had leaked that Zara Ripley, the woman who'd brought down Vincent Calvetti, was testifying today. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and Zara walked through it all with her head held high, flanked by Connor and Dimitri, protected but not hidden. Let them see her. Let them see that she wasn't afraid. Let them see what courage looked like. The grand jury proceeding took 4 hours. Zara testified to everything. Her mother's murder, her 2-year investigation, the night she'd lured Tigger into confessing. She presented the evidence Dimitri had provided, walking the jury through each piece, explaining how it all connected. She testified about Judge Whitmore's corruption, about the network of officials protecting Calvetti, about the system that had failed her mother and countless others. And when the lead prosecutor asked her final question, Ms. Ripley, why are you doing this? Why risk everything to bring down one man? Zara looked at the 16 faces of the grand jurors and spoke from her heart. Because my mother taught me that one person can make a difference. That courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. She died trying to save a man who didn't deserve saving, but that act of courage gave me the strength to stand here today. She placed both hands on her belly. I'm doing this so my daughter grows up in a world where justice is possible, where powerful people can be held accountable, where one voice speaking truth can be louder than an empire built on lies. I'm doing this because if I don't, then my mother's death meant nothing. And I refuse to accept that. The room was silent. Then the lead prosecutor nodded. Thank you, Ms. Ripley. No further questions. The grand jury deliberated for 90 minutes. When they returned, the foreperson read the decision in a clear, steady voice. We, the grand jury, find sufficient evidence to indict Vincent Calvetti on charges of racketeering, murder, conspiracy to commit murder, witness tampering, bribery of a federal official, and organized crime activities. We also recommend additional indictments for Judge Harold Whitmore, Anthony Rizzo, and 17 other individuals identified in the evidence presented. Zara felt tears streaming down her face. She'd done it. After 23 years, after 2 years of planning, after 6 days of hell, she'd actually done it. Connor pulled her into a fierce hug. You did it, Zara. You actually did it. Maya and Isabella were there a second later, all of them crying and laughing and holding each other like they might never let go. And standing slightly apart, watching with something that might have been pride in his amber eyes, was Dmitry Koloff. He nodded once to Zara. She nodded back. A silent acknowledgement between two people who understood what it cost to fight for justice outside the system, to risk everything for what was right. And then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd, a ghost who'd done what he came to do and had no interest in staying for the celebration. That night, as Zara lay in a real safe house, one that hadn't been compromised, one where she could finally rest, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your mother would be proud. Your daughter will be safe. Sleep well, Zara Ripley. You've earned it. DK. Zara smiled, placed her hand on her belly, and whispered to her unborn daughters, "We did it, baby girl. We really did it. I am shaking. Vincent Calvetti is done. Judge Whitmore is done. The whole corrupt system is finally being held accountable. But wait, there's still one more part left. We need to see how Zara's story truly ends. What happens to her? What happens to her daughter? What happens to everyone who fought alongside her?" 3 months later. The late September sun streamed through the windows of Zara's new apartment, a 2-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood in Queens, far from the chaos of Manhattan, far from the memories that haunted the streets where she'd grown up. It wasn't much, but it was hers, paid for with the settlement from a lawsuit against the city for failing to properly investigate her mother's murder, furnished with donations from families who'd lost loved ones to Calvetti's organization, and made into a home with the help of people who'd become more than friends. They'd become family. Zara sat in the rocking chair by the window, her 3-week-old daughter sleeping peacefully in her arms, and watched the world go by with a sense of peace she'd never thought possible. Her daughter, Amara Rose Ripley, named for the grandmother she'd never meet and the hope that had carried them through, was perfect. 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, her mother's eyes, and her grandmother's smile. She'd been born 2 weeks after the grand jury indictments, arriving in the world with the same fierce determination that had carried Zara through the darkest moments of the past 2 years. The labor had been long, 18 hours of pain that felt like the universe was making sure Zara understood just how strong she really was. But when they'd placed Amara in her arms, when she'd looked into those brand new eyes and seen the future staring back at her, every moment of fear and pain and struggle had been worth it. "Hey, Mama," Isabella's voice called from the kitchen. "Coffee's ready. Decaf, before you ask." Zara smiled. Isabella had essentially moved in after Amara was born, claiming she needed to protect her investment, but really just wanting to be close, to help, to be part of this new chapter. She'd converted the 2nd bedroom into both a nursery and a state-of-the-art security command center, because that was just who Isabella was, capable of changing diapers with one hand while monitoring surveillance feeds with the other. Maya arrived a few minutes later, letting herself in with the key Zara had given her, carrying bags of takeout from the Thai place down the street. "I brought pad Thai, spring rolls, and mango sticky rice, because new mums deserve carbs and sugar," Maya announced, setting everything on the small dining table. "How's our girl today?" "Sleeping," Zara said softly, standing carefully and carrying Amara to the nursery. She laid her daughter in the crib, handcrafted by a carpenter whose son had been killed in a Calvetti operation, his way of saying thank you, and stood for a moment, just watching her breathe. "You're safe," Zara thought. "You're loved, and you're going to grow up in a world that's a little bit better because of what we did." When she returned to the living room, Isabella and Maya had set out the food and were waiting for her with expressions that said they had news. "Okay, what is it?" Zara asked, sitting down. "You both have that look. The trial ended yesterday," Maya said carefully. "Final verdicts came in this morning." Zara's breath caught. She'd been following the proceedings as closely as she could between feedings and diaper changes, but the past 3 weeks had been a blur of sleepless nights and newborn care. She'd missed the closing arguments, missed the jury deliberations. "And," she prompted. Maya pulled out her phone and read from a news article. "Vincent Calvetti, guilty on all 47 counts. Sentence, life in prison without possibility of parole, to be served at ADX Florence Supermax facility in Colorado." Zara felt tears spring to her eyes. "Anthony Rizzo, guilty on 32 counts. Sentence, 60 years in federal prison. Judge Harold Whitmore, guilty on bribery, corruption, and obstruction of justice. Disbarred and sentenced to 25 years. Maya looked up, her own eyes shining. Thomas Rake accepted a plea deal. Life in prison with possibility of parole after 30 years in exchange for his continued cooperation. He's been transferred to a secure facility where he'll spend the rest of his life helping prosecutors build cases against other criminal organizations. Isabella pulled up additional articles on her laptop. "That's not all. The investigation your testimony triggered has led to 17 more indictments of judges, prosecutors, and police officials who were on Calvetti's payroll. The entire corrupt network is being dismantled. The FBI director called it the most significant organized crime prosecution in modern New York history." She turned the laptop towards Zara, showing a headline from the New York Times. "The Ripley Effect. How one woman's courage dismantled an empire." "They're calling it the Ripley Effect," Maya said softly. What you did. Standing up, speaking truth, refusing to be silenced. It's inspired other people to come forward. Witnesses in other cases, victims of other crimes. People who thought the system would never work for them are seeing that maybe, just maybe, justice is possible. Zara wiped at her tears, laughing and crying at the same time. I just wanted my mother's death to mean something. I never expected. You changed the world, Isabella interrupted gently. You literally changed the world, and now Amara gets to grow up knowing her mother is a hero. Later that evening, after Maya had left, and Isabella had retired to the second bedroom to monitor her security feeds, Zara sat alone in the living room with a cup of tea and a photo album she'd been slowly putting together. On the first page, a picture of her mother, young and vibrant, wearing that sunflower yellow dress, her smile bright enough to light up the world. On the second page, the newspaper clipping from 23 years ago, announcing her death. Zara had finally been able to look at it without falling apart. On the third page, a photo from the night at the diner, captured by Isabella's backup stream. Zara and Tigger sitting across from each other, the moment before everything changed. And on the following pages, the aftermath, the arrests, the trial, the victory. But the last page, the one Zara had just added, was different. It was a photo taken by a nurse at the hospital, just hours after Amara was born. Zara holding her daughter, exhausted and radiant, with Isabella and Maya on either side, all of them crying and laughing and looking at this tiny new life like she was the most precious thing in the universe. Because she was. A soft knock at the door made Zara look up. She checked the security monitor, one of Isabella's many safety measures, and saw a familiar face, Agent Sarah Connor. Zara opened the door, and Connor stood there holding a small wrapped package, looking almost shy. I hope it's not too late, Connor said. I wanted to come by earlier, but the trial kept me busy, and then there were about 600 hours of paperwork, and... It's fine, Zara said warmly, gesturing her inside. Come in. Coffee? Tea? Tea would be great, Connor said, following Zara to the kitchen. Is she sleeping? For the next hour if we're lucky, Zara replied, setting the kettle on. She's got her days and nights mixed up, so I'm basically a zombie, but I've never been happier in my life. Connor smiled, and it transformed her usually serious face. Being a mother looks good on you. They sat at the small kitchen table, and Connor pushed the wrapped package across. This is for Amara, from everyone at the FBI who worked the Calvetti case. We wanted her to have something to remember what her mother did. Zara unwrapped it carefully and found a shadow box frame. Inside was the FBI's Medal of Valor, the highest civilian honor the Site Bureau could award, along with a letter signed by the FBI director himself, commending Zara Ripley for extraordinary courage in the face of grave personal danger and for service to justice that exemplifies the highest ideals of American law enforcement. Connor, I can't... Zara started, her voice breaking. You can and you will, Connor interrupted firmly. Zara, what you did changed my career, changed my life. I've been fighting organized crime for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like what you accomplished. You reminded me why I became an agent in the first place, because one person standing up for what's right can change everything. She reached across the table and took Zara's hand. Your daughter is going to grow up hearing stories about you, about how her mother was the bravest person I've ever met. And I really hope, she's half as courageous as you are. Zara squeezed Connor's hand, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, drinking tea, two women who'd been through hell together and come out the other side stronger. What about you? Zara finally asked. What's next for Agent Connor? Connor's smile turned slightly mischievous. I've been promoted. Special agent in charge of the Organized Crime Task Force, which means I get to spend the next few years dismantling what's left of Calvetti's network and going after other organizations that think they're untouchable. That sounds dangerous. It is, Connor agreed. But I've got a good team. And I've got someone watching my back. Someone who doesn't officially exist, but who's proven he's on the side of justice. Zara raised an eyebrow. Dimitri. I didn't say that, Connor replied, but her eyes sparkled. Let's just say I've received some very helpful intelligence from anonymous sources. Intelligence that's led to 3 major arrests in the past month alone. Whoever's providing it clearly wants to see these organizations taken down as much as we do. Have you heard from him? Zara asked. Since the trial? No, Connor said. Have you? Zara pulled out her phone and showed Connor the text from 3 months ago, the last communication she'd received from Dmitry Koloff. Connor read it and smiled. That sounds like him. Does his job, saves the day, disappears into the shadows. The perfect vigilante. He told me his daughter doesn't speak to him, Zara said quietly. That the choices he made to fight corruption cost him his relationship with her. I keep thinking about that, wondering if Amara will understand why I did what I did, if she'll be proud or resentful or... She'll be proud, Connor said with absolute certainty. Because you didn't do this for glory or revenge or recognition. You did it because it was right. Because your mother deserved justice. Because future daughters deserve to grow up in a safer world. Amara will understand that. Maybe not right away. Maybe not until she's older. But she will. A week later, Zara received an unexpected visitor. She was in the nursery, changing Amara's diaper while singing a lullaby her mother used to sing to her, when Isabella called from the living room. Zara, there's someone here to see you. And you're going to want to come out here for this. Zara finished with the diaper, picked up Amara, and walked out to find a woman in her early 30s standing in the living room. She had auburn hair, kind eyes, and the nervous energy of someone who wasn't sure they should be here. Zara Ripley, the woman asked. I'm sorry to just show up like this. My name is Rachel Rake. I'm Thomas Rake's daughter. Zara's breath caught. This was Tigger's daughter, the one who lived in Seattle, the one who hadn't spoken to him in 15 years. I saw the trial on the news, Rachel continued, her words coming fast, like she needed to get them out before she lost her nerve. I saw you testify. I saw my father testify, and I needed to meet you. I needed to see the woman who did what I couldn't do. What do you mean? Zara asked gently. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I knew what my father was. I knew what he did for a living. I suspected he'd hurt people, killed people, but I was too afraid to confront him, too afraid to do anything about it. I just cut him out of my life and told myself that was enough, that I'd done my part by refusing to be complicit. She wiped at her eyes. But it wasn't enough, because while I was pretending he didn't exist, he kept killing people, kept destroying families. And I could have stopped it, or at least tried, but I didn't. I was a coward. Zara shifted Amara in her arms and walked closer to Rachel. You weren't a coward. You were protecting yourself. That's not the same thing. But you didn't protect yourself, Rachel said. You put yourself in danger. You risked everything. Your life, your baby's life. To make sure my father faced justice. You did what I was too afraid to do. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. My father asked me to give you this. I visited him last week. First time I've seen him in 15 years. He's different now. Broken. Remorseful. I don't know if that makes up for anything he's done, but he wanted you to have this. Zara took the envelope with her free hand, her heart pounding. Rachel continued. He also wanted me to tell you that he's donating all of his assets, everything he earned working for Calvetti, to a fund for victims' families. It's not much, and it doesn't bring anyone back, but it's something. It's him trying to make amends the only way he can. Thank you for bringing this, Zara said softly. And Rachel? You're not a coward. You're here now. You're facing what your father did. That takes courage too. Rachel's face crumpled, and Zara found herself awkwardly hugging this stranger while holding a baby, both of them crying, both of them daughters of broken men trying to make peace with the past. After Rachel left, Zara sat down and opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter on prison stationery. Dear Zara, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to write it anyway. You asked me once if I remembered your mother's last words. I told you she begged for her life. That was a lie. One of many I've told myself to make what I did easier to live with. The truth is that your mother's last words were, I forgive you. She said it after I shot her. As she lay dying on that diner floor, bleeding out, she looked up at me and said, I forgive you, and I pray you'll forgive yourself someday. I've carried those words for 23 years like stones in my chest. I never understood them, never understood how someone I'd just murdered could offer forgiveness, never understood what kind of person sees a monster and still sees humanity worth saving. But now I do. Because you did the same thing. You came into that diner looking for revenge, but you offered me something else, a choice, a chance to tell the truth, a chance to be better than I'd been for 27 years. Your mother tried to save me with her forgiveness. You saved me with your courage. I'm spending the rest of my life in prison, as I should, but I'm doing it as someone who finally told the truth, who finally faced what he'd done, who finally became the person your mother believed I could be. That's because of you, Zara. Your daughter is lucky to have you. The world is lucky to have you. And your mother, wherever she is, I know she's proud. With more gratitude than I have words for. Thomas Rake. Zara read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face, while Amara slept peacefully in her arms. I forgive you. Her mother's last words, not a plea for mercy, not a curse on the man who killed her, but forgiveness, the most powerful weapon in the world. Zara looked down at her daughter, at this perfect new life that represented hope and future, and the possibility that the world could be better. Your grandmother was extraordinary, she whispered. And I promise I'll make sure you know her. Not just how she died, but how she lived. The kindness she showed everyone. The forgiveness she offered even to those who didn't deserve it. The belief she had that people could change. Amara stirred in her sleep, making a small sound that might have been agreement. 6 months later, the Zara Ripley Memorial Fund officially launched on what would have been Zara's mother's 52nd birthday. The fund, established with donations from victims' families, settlements from the city, and contributions from people around the world who'd been inspired by Zara's story, provided resources for children who'd lost parents to violence, offering counseling, education support, and assistance with basic needs. The launch event was held at a community center in the neighborhood where Zara had grown up, and it was packed. Families who'd lost loved ones to Calvetti's organization, law enforcement officials who'd worked the case, journalists who'd covered the story, and dozens of children, some tiny, some teenagers, all of them carrying the weight of loss, but also the spark of hope. Zara stood at the podium with 9-month-old Amara on her hip, looking out at the crowd, and felt her mother's presence so strongly it was like she was standing right beside her. My mother believed in second chances, Zara began, her voice clear and strong. She believed that people could change, that courage was choosing hope, even when hope seemed impossible, that one person's kindness could ripple out and change the world. She looked down at Amara, who was chewing on a teething ring, and completely oblivious to the significance of the moment. This fund is my mother's legacy. It's proof that her life, and her death, meant something, that the kindness she showed, even to someone who didn't deserve it, created ripples that are still spreading 24 years later. She looked back at the crowd. Every child who receives support from this fund is a testament to my mother's belief in second chances. Every family who finds help here is proof that one person's courage can change everything. My mother didn't live to see justice served. She didn't live to meet her granddaughter, but her spirit, her forgiveness, her hope, her unshakable belief in the possibility of redemption, that lives on. The crowd erupted in applause, and Zara felt tears sliding down her cheeks, but they were good tears, healing tears. After the ceremony, as people mingled and children played, and hope filled the air like music, Maya pulled Zara aside. There's someone who wants to meet you, Maya said, gesturing to a corner of the room. Zara walked over and found herself face to face with a teenager, maybe 16, with dark hair and eyes that held too much sadness for someone so young. Ms. Ripley, the girl said nervously. My name is Sophia Chen. I'm Elena Rodriguez's niece, the journalist who was killed by Tigger. Zara's heart clenched. Elena Rodriguez, one of the names in the folder Dimitri had given her, one of the lives Tigger had taken. I just wanted to say thank you, Sophia continued. My aunt was investigating Calvetti when she died. Everyone said it was suicide, but we knew. We knew it wasn't. But we couldn't prove it, couldn't get anyone to listen. Until you. You made people listen. You made sure my aunt's death was recognized as murder. That means everything to my family. She pulled out a worn notebook. This was my aunt's journal. She was documenting everything she learned about Calvetti's organization. After she died, my mom kept it hidden, afraid of what would happen if anyone knew we had it. But now, Sophia held out the journal. Now that Calvetti's in prison, now that the truth is out, I want you to have this. My aunt would have wanted her work to help other people, to make sure this never happens again. Zara took the journal with trembling hands. Sophia, this is my aunt's legacy, Sophia interrupted. Just like you're protecting your mother's legacy. We're the daughters they left behind, and we get to decide what their deaths mean, whether they're just tragedies or whether they become something more. She smiled through her tears. Thank you for making them mean something. That night, after Amara was finally asleep and the apartment was quiet, Zara sat on the floor of the nursery with Sophia's journal and began to read. Elena Rodriguez had been a hell of a journalist. Meticulous, brave, relentless. Her documentation of Calvetti's organization was detailed enough that Zara knew Connor would want to see it. There were leads here, names, connections that could still be pursued. But what struck Zara most was the entry from the day before Elena died. I know they're coming for me. I know that the information I've gathered makes me a target, but I can't stop now. Every name I document, every connection I expose, every piece of truth I uncover, it's a stone in the foundation of justice. Maybe I won't live to see the building completed. Maybe someone else will have to finish what I started. But at least I'll know I contributed something. At least I'll know my life meant something. Zara closed the journal and placed her hand over her heart, feeling it beat strong and steady. We've finished it, she thought. All of us. Me, Agent Connor, Isabella, Maya, Tigger. Everyone who spoke up. Everyone who refused to stay silent. We finished what you started, Elena. We finished what my mother started. And we're going to keep going. She stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city lights, spreading across the darkness like stars. Somewhere out there, Dmitry Koloff was probably conducting another operation, dismantling another corrupt empire, being the ghost who fought for justice in the shadows. Somewhere out there, Agent Connor was building cases, pursuing leads, using Elena's journal to bring down more criminals. Somewhere out there, Thomas Rake was serving his sentence, trying to become the man he should have been all along. And right here, in this small apartment in Queens, a 9-month-old girl named Amara Rose Ripley slept peacefully, unaware that her mother had changed the world, unaware of the legacy of courage and hope that she'd inherited. But she'll know, Zara thought. When she's old enough, I'll tell her everything. About her grandmother's forgiveness, about her mother's fight for justice, about all the people who believed that one person could make a difference. And maybe, hopefully, she'll believe it too. 1 year later. Amara's first birthday party was everything Zara had dreamed it would be. The apartment was decorated with balloons and streamers. Isabella had made a 3-tier cake that was probably structurally unsound, but absolutely beautiful. Maya had organized games and activities, and the apartment was filled with people. Agent Connor, Sophia and her family, Rachel Rake, dozens of families from the Memorial Fund, and even a few of the FBI agents who'd worked the Calvetti case. Amara, wearing a tiny sunflower yellow dress that matched the one her grandmother had worn in that photograph from 24 years ago, sat in her high chair and demolished her slice of cake with the pure joy that only a 1-year-old can achieve. As Zara watched her daughter laugh and play, covered in frosting and absolutely delighted with life, she felt her phone buzz, a text from an unknown number. Happy birthday to Amara, and congratulations to you, Zara. You've built something beautiful from tragedy. Your mother would be incredibly proud. Stay safe. Stay strong. The world needs more people like you. DK. Zara smiled and typed back. Thank you. For everything. Stay safe out there, Arbiter. The response came immediately. Always. P.S. There's a college fund in Amara's name. Anonymous donor. Consider it an investment in the future. She's going to do great things. Zara stared at the message, tears welling in her eyes. Dmitry Koloff, the ghost, the vigilante, the man who didn't officially exist, had set up a college fund for her daughter. Because he believed in investing in hope. Because he understood that changing the world wasn't just about taking down criminals. It was about building something better in the aftermath. You okay, Mama? Isabella asked, appearing at Zara's side. Yeah, Zara said, wiping her eyes and smiling. I'm more than okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. She looked around the apartment at all these people who'd become family, at the community built from shared tragedy and transformed into shared hope, at her daughter, laughing as Maya made funny faces. We did it, Zara said softly. We actually did it. You did it, Isabella corrected. You started this. You had the courage to stand up when everyone else stayed silent. But I didn't finish it alone, Zara replied. That's the point. My mother tried to change one man's heart. I tried to change one system's corruption. But what actually changed the world was all of us. Everyone in this room, everyone who spoke up, everyone who refused to let fear win. We did it together. She picked up Amara, frosting-covered face and all, and held her close. And we're going to keep doing it. For her, for all the daughters and sons who deserve better, for everyone who's ever been told that justice isn't possible, that the system is too broken, that one person can't make a difference. Amara grabbed Zara's face with sticky hands and giggled. And Zara laughed, really laughed, for the first time in as long as she could remember, because she was happy, because her daughter was safe, because the world was, in fact, a little bit better than it had been 2 years ago, and because hope, real, tangible, hard-won hope, was alive and thriving in a small apartment in Queens, in the heart of a woman who'd refused to give up, and in the future of a little girl who would grow up knowing that courage changes everything. 5 years later, 5-year-old Amara Rose Ripley stood in front of her kindergarten class for show and tell, holding a photograph. "This is my grandma Amara," she said in the confident voice of a child who'd been told she was loved every single day of her life. "I never met her because she died before I was born, but my mama says she was the bravest person ever." The teacher smiled encouragingly. "What made her brave, Amara?" "She forgave someone who hurt her," Amara said simply. "Mama says that forgiving people is the hardest thing in the world, but sometimes it's the most important thing. Because forgiveness can change people. It can make them better." She looked at the photograph. Her grandmother, in that sunflower yellow dress, smiling at the camera with joy and hope, and unshakable faith in humanity. "Mama says I'm named after my grandma because she wants me to be like her, to be kind and brave, and to believe that people can change. And when I grow up, I want to help people like Mama does. I want to make the world better." The class clapped, and Amara returned to her seat, clutching the photograph like the treasure it was. After school, Zara picked up Amara, and they walked to the small memorial garden that had been built with funds from the Amara Ripley Memorial Fund, a peaceful space in the heart of the neighborhood where families could come to remember loved ones lost to violence. In the center of the garden was a bronze statue, a woman in a sunflower yellow dress, her hand extended in welcome, her face forever captured in an expression of hope and forgiveness. The plaque read, "Amara Ripley, 1977–2002. She believed in second chances, even for those who didn't deserve them." Her daughter finished what she started. Zara and little Amara stood in front of the statue, holding hands. "Tell me the story again, Mama," Amara said, like she did every time they visited. And Zara did. She told her daughter about a woman who chose kindness over fear, forgiveness over hatred, hope over despair. She told her about how one person's courage could ripple out and change the world. She told her about how love, real, powerful, unshakable love, was the strongest weapon in the universe. And as the sun set over the city that had been transformed by one woman's refusal to accept injustice, Zara Ripley held her daughter close and made a silent promise to the mother she'd lost and the daughter she'd found. "I will keep telling this story. I will keep fighting for what's right. I will keep building a world where courage matters, where justice is possible, and where hope never dies. Because that's what you taught me, Mum. That's what I'm teaching her. And that's what will live on long after we're gone. Love, courage, hope. The only things that ever really change the world." In a supermax prison in Colorado, Vincent Calvetti died alone in his cell at age 76, unmourned and unforgiven. In a federal facility in Pennsylvania, Thomas Rake spent his days counseling other inmates, teaching them that it's never too late to choose differently, and writing letters to his daughter that she sometimes answered. In New York City, Agent Sarah Connor was promoted to Deputy Director of the FBI, where she used her position to overhaul how organized crime investigations were conducted, always remembering the pregnant waitress who taught her what real courage looked like. In Seattle, Rachel Rake opened a non-profit helping children of incarcerated parents, breaking the cycle of violence and giving them the second chance her father never gave anyone else. And across the country, in cities and towns and quiet neighborhoods, people who'd heard Zara Ripley's story found the courage to speak up, to fight back, to refuse to accept injustice, because that's what courage does. It ripples, it spreads, it changes everything. One person, one choice, one moment of refusing to stay silent. That's all it takes to start a revolution. And Zara Ripley, daughter of Amara, mother of Amara, fighter of injustice, believer in hope, had proven it was possible. Wow, I'm literally crying. This story has been an emotional roller coaster from start to finish. Zara didn't just get revenge. She got justice. She didn't just survive. She thrived. She didn't just honor her mother's memory. She transformed it into something that will help people for generations. If this story moved you, if it inspired you, if it made you believe that one person really can change the world, please leave a comment telling me your favorite moment. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, because we've got more incredible stories coming your way. Thank you for going on this journey with Zara, with Amara, with all of us. Remember, courage changes everything. Never forget that.